Welcome back, everybody, to Two Legs. Paul McCartney is 80 years old today.
Wow.
We are
Today.
about today. Today, our episode is dropping. This is episode 170. I'm Andy Nichols. It's Two Legs, and there's my partner Tom Agnotti rocking his Got Back tour T-shirt from his recent show. And by the time this is posted, I'll have seen Paul too, which is Thursday of this week coming up. But today, Saturday, June 18th, our man, our guy, is 80 years old, and God bless him. He brings us so much joy and happiness and everything that he's done. And yeah, we're Uber fanboys, but we don't really care. And today we're going to rank Paul's albums from our least favorite to our most favorite, and that's 26 albums in total. No live, no Firemen, no experimental, just the main canon. That's what we're doing today on Two Legs. And good afternoon, partner. How are you?
I'm doing great, buddy. This is something that I've been, jonesing to do for a little while, and other people have done them, so they've got theirs out of the way now. So hopefully, we're going to be all alone doing this, and just really psyched about this. And yeah, we talked about the albums that we're going to do for this, and I know there's some people out there that are going to go, oh well, you should have counted Electric Arguments. Well, yeah, fine, we could have.
Right.
But it's a Fireman record, and we're just going to leave it to being a Fireman record.
I liked your idea when you came up with it to do the main canon. We weren't going to do live. I mean, or you weren't going to do tripping. We're going to
classical, right?
Yeah. Now, okay, the three that we're going to probably all have very similar choices on is some of the other. And the 26, you might be asking, well, what 26 they're doing? So we did include Kisses on the Bottom. We included Run Devil Run, and we included Choba.
Right. Yes.
We included those three. So because there are elements of, Kisses and Run Devil Run both have McCartney originals on them. So they have to be in there. Choba does not. Well, depending which version you have, because there's no McCartney originals on Choba, right? But
no, nowhere. No, no matter what version of Choba you have, it's all covers.
So I can see somebody giving us flack for including Choba in there, but
it's a McCartney record still.
It's a McCartney record. So you include Choba, but you don't include the Firemen. Well, listen, I mean, very simply, look at the spine. It says Paul McCartney. Okay, look at the Firemen. It says the Firemen. Now, do we both feel that the Firemen is a Paul McCartney record more so than Choba? Of course we do.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. But we're just going to leave it to that.
That's it.
So maybe, as somebody did make that comment, and then I did respond. I said, well, you know what? Maybe for his 100th birthday, we'll rank every single thing that he's did. We'll do classical, live, Fireman. We'll do everything on his 100th, maybe, and that'll be fun. But for now, yeah, like you said, it's just the canon titles, 26. That's a lot of titles to begin with. I mean, 26
a lot of records. That's 26 records, and some people just say, well, if you're doing Wings, you should do everything. You and I classify Wings albums as Paul McCartney albums. Did we just
absolutely? Do? I think the bulk of the people do, anyways.
They're Paul McCartney records, okay, released under the Wings name. And I don't separate Paul McCartney. So, like, if you see sometimes when you read a biography, they might call McCartney 2 like Paul's second solo album. Well, I don't view it that way. I don't think you do either. I don't. True.
I mean, looking back at it now, it's still McCartney. It's still the bulk of the music on those records is McCartney. I mean, he's the main songwriter, the main lead vocalist.
Yeah.
So how can you not just say, okay, it's just McCartney? It's just McCartney record. Obviously, there's going to be other other singers on these albums, and we'll talk about that as we're bringing them up. But that's just why we decided to do it.
Yeah. Let's just talk a few minutes before we dive into the rankings, which we'll do. Let's just talk a couple minutes about Paul being 80 years old this year.
Oh yeah.
It's remarkable when I think about when I became a fan of Paul in the 90s, that I think 30 years later he'd still be going strong, and we've had multiple chances to see him. The fact that he'd be 80, I know sometimes you've watched interviews and he's talked about it. A guy in his 50s is washed up, or a guy in his 60s, and the man's 80 and is still touring and producing new music. And it's nothing short of amazing to me
No,
to
absolutely.
continue.
I'm, grateful that he's not one of those artists that are just resting on his laurels. He could have, once the Beatles split, he could have just ended his his musical career, and his legacy would have been well intact. You know what I mean? But no, he kept forging on. Into his 40s. 40-year-olds, they're too old to rock and roll now, right? Now 50-year-olds. Oh, how can a 50-year-old just keep on going up? And just keep decade after decade after decade. He's been proving us all wrong, still making great records well into his 60s, 70s, and 80s. And
Yeah,
and I hope he continues to make great music. He's not sitting back like Billy Joel and just singing, you know, all
you
his
make up a
hits
good
instead of
point. Yeah,
right, which is fine. Which was kind of what McCartney's doing live. Is his greatest hits. Not really doing new material
but
live,
but
but
he's still
he's
doing the
still
material.
making exactly. He's still making new music.
That's the same
So
thing that Elton, McCartney, and Dylan kind of all have in common.
right,
They are
right.
still now their stage shows. Well, really, Elton and McCartney, they're
And
showmen,
Clapton,
and
yeah,
Clapton, they're going to put on the best show of the hits and cater
right,
to the average person. Okay,
right.
Dylan will do a set list and say, I don't care what you all know or don't
Yeah,
know. This is what I'm doing.
right.
But he still writes.
Neil Young as well. Yeah.
Neil Young does too. But these are artists that are still writing and creating and doing new music. So,
Hmm.
which is pretty awesome. And I think it's pretty cool that today, and again, folks, we don't plan our attire when we do our shows. Some people think we do, but I think it's pretty cool that we're bookending our shirts here
Right.
with, my shirt from McCartney and Tom from the most
Right.
recent Got Back. So there's 52
I
years
mean,
right
52
there.
years. I mean, what a perfect. Yeah, I had no idea you were going to wear that shirt. I had no
No,
idea I was going to wear this shirt until I just, picked it
threw,
up.
threw it on.
But exactly. I mean, listen, there's enough people out there, talking about his Beatles days, and that's great, and people should be. But I'm happy that we're mainly focusing on his solo career, which is 52 years long and still doesn't get the respect it deserves. And I'm so looking forward to the McCartney Legacy book, from Cozen and Sinclair
which
coming this
Which
December, unfortunately.
good
But go ahead.
segue. I was going to say good
Yeah.
segue if you want to just kind of tidy up any recent news before we dive in here. Which if Tom was mentioning, go ahead.
Yeah, but yeah, unfortunately, the McCartney Legacy that we were hoping was going to come out in October, I believe
October.
was right, is now getting pushed to December. And look, it's going to be even more massive than what we thought. I think there's like thousands upon thousands of extra words that are going to be in this book. So the editors, they gave it's pretty much the full thing. What they planned on writing, and it's not going to get edited down, which is great. So we're going to get all this wonderful information, and his career, or at least the first 10 years, it looks like, is going to get the respect that it deserves, the coverage that it deserves from thanks to Cozen and Sinclair.
Well, the first volume only goes till 73
Right.
though, right?
Right, but the second volume I think goes up to 79 or 80.
79, right? Which is fine. The
80,
first 10 years
80,
of a
yeah.
solo career is fine.
Right,
And I mean, what's another 2 months really? I mean, nothing.
right, right,
Nothing. It's not going to delay. It's
right.
not a. It's
Well,
not a.
again, it's COVID messing everything up,
Which is
for the most
fine.
part.
It's going to be
Yeah.
great, and I really can't wait to. That is going to be one hell of a book, and I can't wait
Oh,
to read it, review it. We'll talk about it. Hopefully, we can get them on.
well, we'll
Uh,
have them both on, absolutely.
but that, yeah, we did. They did post that. I think yesterday they posted that, but they posted a really cool photo too. Did you see that photo they posted of
Yes,
Courtney's
yes,
with the hotel staff
right, right, right,
and
exactly. So,
lots of brand new images that are going to be in this book that have never been
that's
published before.
absolutely right. I mean, Cozen was talking in the last episode of Things We Said Today, about how they're going to incorporate pictures with the theme of whatever they're talking about. So if they're talking about, let's say, the 72 tour or the university tour, let's say, and if they have pictures, they're going to show pictures while they're talking about so it's not going to be, because how a lot of most biographies, they have the pictures right in the middle of the book. You know what I
Yes,
mean? All bunched in. They're
all
not going to
bunched
do
in
that.
the middle. No,
Right, right.
they're gonna
They're going to spread out the pictures, yeah, and put it in their respectful chapters, and in respectful areas, and that's just how they're going to do it. So,
yeah.
and I think that's great.
Some other noteworthy news. If you've been following, Paul's set list. He snuck in Jet into his set list in
Yes,
Boston
the
the other
second
night.
Fenway show.
The second Fenway show, he snuck
And
Jet into the middle of the set.
and he didn't replace it with, I mean, it was an added song, so it didn't replace a song. So, and then it also looks like he's kicked women and wives to the curb. It looks like he's just sticking with Let 'Em In now. Whatever. I would have liked the opportunity to see him do that live, but you know what? Hopefully he sticks Jet in because listen, they got the brass section in
They
there.
had a brass
Yeah,
section. That song was built for a live arena audience.
absolutely. So the rest of the crowd, if you're lucky enough to get to see Jet, you count yourself one of the lucky ones. Yes, as you're
I'm hoping.
you know,
I'm hoping. It's been a
hoping.
hot minute
Yeah,
since I've heard Jet live, so I think I
right.
need to.
Yep, cross those fingers. You got the show on the 16th. As you can tell, we're recording this before Paul's 80th birthday, but you know what? It's the 80th birthday bash anyways. So, but we'll obviously, by the time this is posted, hopefully we'll have gone live to get your review
Yes.
of the show, and I don't doubt you'll have a great time.
Yeah, I just hope it doesn't rain. We'll have to see. Just hope it doesn't rain. We'll see. But yeah, so
Right.
that's Thursday night, and that's the last show on the tour. I know people have wondered, maybe is Ringo
Right.
gonna come out, and because it's the last show of the U.S. leg. We'll see.
Yeah, but we'll see now because what happened? I mean, two of his all-stars came down with COVID. So does that mean now that he's going to isolate himself for 10 days or whatever and not, so I mean, this is now almost like there's almost like no excuse for him not to show up. You know what I mean? Because he's clear through September now. I mean, those dates aren't going to get made up until September. So it almost should be a guarantee now that he shows up for this
It
show.
should, but I don't think he's gonna.
Right. I mean that Dodger Stadium one was so special with with him coming out and I think they did Helter Skelter together.
Yeah.
So this was 2019.
Which was his last show before COVID, was it?
Yeah, 2019. Yeah.
Wow.
So, but again, we'll see. I mean, this is a special occasion, 2 days before his 80th, and hopefully
by the time this is posted, we're gonna say, "Oh, it was great. He showed up."
Right.
Or no, he didn't. But we'll see. But more to come. So,
More
are we ready
to come.
You ready to?
Yeah.
Start diving into our
dive
26?
into this. Yeah, I mean, what was your thought process on this? I mean, you have a clear cut number one, as I have a clear cut number one. And I know what my least favorites are. You know what I mean? So in a way, while doing this, is I'm looking at, how many songs on these albums now, because I'm trying to rank them as an album as a whole. But when you get into that kind of middle section, that's where you got to kind of look at it and say, okay, right. Okay, this album, I absolutely adore 5 tracks. And then this one, I absolutely adore 6 tracks. So then you put that one, in front, but you kind of like the album equally. You know what I mean? So you kind of have to think of it in a different way.
Yeah, it was kind of, I kind of did it in thirds, kind of to your point. Like, what your favorites are. You have your top 5 or 10.
Right.
The bottom ones. It's coming up with that middle section, and what disparages, a ranking from 13 to 14 or 14 to 15. And honestly, that was the hardest part I had with doing the 26, was coming up with those middle. That let me just take a look at my little cheat sheet here. From 11 to 18 was the hardest for me. Where to put those albums, because I like them all kind of equally, but I had to rank them somehow. The top 10 and the bottom 7 or 8 were easy. So we shall see. I think we'll have a couple of matches. I think we'll have a couple.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
We'll have a couple that'll be like way far apart, which is good.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to seeing your list and talking about it. And then people listening, watching us on YouTube, please, if you want to add your list in the comment sections, please do. I'd love to see your list and talk about your lists as well.
And
So
if you're listing you want to include the Fireman stuff or the the classical stuff or the live stuff,
yeah, more
go for
power
it.
to you.
Go
I
for
mean,
it.
because I'll
We're
tell you
not
what,
limited.
if and when we ever do, everything he's ever done, there's some classical stuff that I like more than some of his albums. I'll just come out and say it. I love Standing Stone and I love Liverpool Oratorio.
Oratorio. Yeah.
I think there's some really good stuff. Now, I mean, can you really say it's a McCartney record when he's just more or less writing the
Music.
the ideas, and then he's having help write the music and whatnot, because he
Yeah,
can't write music.
like a Carl Davis.
Right. Exactly. So, but again, it's still all his ideas.
Of
So,
course.
but anyways, okay. So I'll tell you what.
Lead him off, partner.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'll lead off. I have no problem with that. And this the album that I listened to the least. Okay, and again, I mean, this album I haven't listened to it since 2019 when the reissue came out. Okay, and it's a little different from from when it first came out back in, I think, '87. And that's the Choba CD, Choba record right there. And I guess that's going to be your 26 as well. Okay, now you're holding the one that came out in, what is that, the early '90s that came out, or did it come out in the '80s?
'80s.
Yeah. Okay.
The 80s.
So. Yeah, but I had that one too. So you get 3 extra tracks on that one. This one, I think you're only getting 10, because I think
10.
that's how it originally came out, right? On album. I think this is how it originally came out on the LP, was only 10 tracks.
Yeah.
Now I think I like the song selection from this. Okay, what I don't really care for is just the production. I just don't think it's ballsy enough, in my opinion. Like the one that's going to come,
one or two.
Yeah. But anyways, I don't mind his singing's fine, but again, it's just it just doesn't do anything for me. Listen, I grew up in a time when I had older relatives that were listening to 50s and early 60s rock and roll, so I know that music, but it's never done anything for me. Never did anything for me. It never made me want to go out and buy. I mean, like, the only musician that I have greatest hits from that era is Little Richard.
From the 50s.
That's it.
Yeah.
From the 50s, yeah.
But
that's my 26. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's all the same reasons you said. It's. I like to look at this album as that it was the ends justified the means. And what do I mean by that? I mean that what he got out of putting this band together, it was the shot in the arm that he needed to eventually do Flowers in the Dirt, which came out a year or two later. But this project kind of was let's kind of get Paul's career back on track.
To the roots. Go back to his roots.
So the ends justify the means, but the whole, to your point, it's very glossy production, 80s, very slick on a lot of and some of it's good. Like, I love his versions of Midnight Special and Don't Get Around. Especially I love Don't Get Around Much Anymore, which was also on those Once Upon a Long Ago maxi singles. But I don't listen to it that often. I've got the 2019 as well, and the vinyl, but it's as a collector. But it's not one that you're going to go revisit. It's a covers album, and honestly, and I know we're a Paul podcast, John Lennon did a better version of covering rock and roll covers than Paul did, and John Lennon's Rock and Roll is probably my favorite John Lennon album, start to finish.
Really?
Yes. So, and not to go into a tangent, but I think John does the rock covers better than Paul for the most part. I mean, except a little later when we get to this album that we're going to talk to. But yeah, Choba's 26 for me as well.
Okay, cool. 27. No, wait. No, we're going the other way. 25.
25 to stay alive. We're going to go to 2012, and we're going to go to Kisses on the Bottom for 25. There you go. So we were the same then for the bottom 3.
Right.
Yeah. Good. Kisses on the Bottom for me. Of all the kind of cover albums or anything, this is probably the one I play the most, because I do like Paul and the singer standard mode that he does here. I love his version of More I Cannot Wish You from the stage version of Guys and Dolls, which is a great show. And of course, you've got a couple originals on here as well.
Yeah.
But go Get Yourself Another Fool has always been a favorite of mine. My Valentine, which I'm not looking forward to hearing on Thursday, is a song that sucks. I just don't like it. But it's probably the album I out of all his covers albums and standards, I go back to this one the most. The double LP is great. Tom recently got that as well.
Right.
Glory of Love. Go Get Yourself Another Fool. Love that track. But
Good one right there. Yeah.
but that's for me. And the Inchworm too I like. But that's 25.
Yeah, top-notch production, top-notch players. He's surrounded himself by some wonderful musicians on this record. Again, I mean, these are good to great songs, but he's also picking some of the lesser-known stuff. Whereas Rod the Mod, he did his 20 songbook, record CDs, and
Yeah.
he did a lot of those were the well-known stuff. Paul went a little step further and had the courage to pick some not
Deeper.
so well known stuff, deeper cuts, right? Absolutely. And I credit him for that. I'm going to sit right down and write myself a letter. I think is excellent. I love We Three, My Echo, My Shadow, and Me. Actuate the positive. I love. Get Yourself Another Fool, like you said, is great. I love the cover Baby's Request. I think that's good too. But again, I mean, to the point where, we're talking about repeat listens. I mean, how often do we actually really listen to this? And it's great, yeah, but it's not the one I'm not going to pick. I mean,
You're not
again,
reaching for it.
like what you just said, you're dreading hearing My Valentine at the show. So, and most people unfortunately, I mean, it's a nice song. It's a nice little tribute to Nancy. But again, it's not top-notch McCartney ballads. You know what I mean? Or at least in my mind.
My Valentine, Women and Wives, like that stuff is not set for the kind of shows he's doing. Sorry, 60,000 people in an arena don't want to hear Was It Rain? Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that song.
Right.
So I think if he didn't milk the thing to death for the last decade, I probably would like the song a little bit better.
Right.
But it's his insistence, his "let me roll it"-esque approach with this song is it just gets tiresome a little bit.
Right. Gotcha.
That was 25 for me and you, and then 24. Go ahead, brother.
Number 24. No, it's me.
It's you.
24. Yeah. It's you. Is it you? Me? You?
Is it you? Is it me? It's for you. It's for me. It's a worldwide symphony.
24. Okay. Again, so it's still good. I like this one better than Choba. We're going Run Double Run. And I love the production on this.
Chris Thomas, baby, we love you.
Chris Thomas is back. You got Gilmore on the whole thing. Great band backing up McCartney on this record, and I think he's in fine voice still. This is 1999, and again, great stuff. However, he did again kind of pick some deeper stuff from that era. Something like Movie Mag.
I mean, did you know the song "No Other Baby" before it was on this album? Because I didn't.
Yeah, I did know the song. I wasn't familiar with it. Wasn't very familiar with it, but I did know it. And then like songs like "Coquette," "Honey Hush," yeah, exactly. Some of that stuff. She said, yeah. I mean, I knew Blue Jean Bop. I knew All Shook Up. I think I knew No Other Baby. And No Other Baby. So yeah, I mean, there's some stuff I kind of knew, but again, it's a lot more powerful than Choba. I think the song selection is a little better, and then you got the addition of some of the new stuff that he wrote, just for this.
Yeah, try not to cry. Party.
Yeah, Run Double Run.
And Run Double Run, right?
Yeah.
Party. So, he wrote Party, right?
I should have wrote that down, but I did not. I think Try Not to Cry, right?
No, Try Not to Cry.
Run Double Run.
Run Double Run, and I want to say, let's just look. No, Party's a cover.
Okay. Yeah.
Party first heard in Elvis's second film, Loving You, in 1957. Okay, so I always thought that was his. No, What It Is. He wrote What It Is.
Okay, there you go.
What It Is. So it goes to tell you how much we love this album. We don't even know what he wrote on and what he didn't. But again, to Tom's point, light years better. If you're gonna listen to a covers album by McCartney, this is the one to listen to because his the on fire again. First album post Linda's passing, so the raw emotional energy here is evident on this record. The screaming, awesome. He was an album that he needed to make because she wanted him to do it, and he did it, and that's evident on here. Just for the emotion alone and the playing. Again, all the songs are Brown Eyed Handsome Man. A lot of again, this album got heavily promoted back in '99. It was a big campaign with this album. You know, the live show at the Cavern that he did in '99. So the videos for No Other Baby and Brown Eyed Handsome Man. But just again, Chris Thomas production has more balls. This album has more balls than Choba. So I'm with you.
Yeah, and again, kind of like going back to his roots. I mean, just losing Linda, starting all over again, kind of thing. And I thought it was maybe the appropriate thing to do. Linda was a big fan of this era of music as well. So this is also kind of like a tribute to her in a way. But again, still fine voice
Sure.
For this record. And again, it's just how often do I listen to it, and it's not very often.
Nope. So that's 25, 24, 23. 23 for me. I think this is where the paths are going to start to get a little bit.
I hope so.
I think so. I really hope so. I hold this up and then you shake your head. We're screwed here. That's not a good. That's not a good forecast of where we're coming. Now, 23 for me is where it is. I love the album. I love the huge hit on the album, but it's not a proper album. You picked it, didn't you? God damn it. Broad Street.
Yeah.
23. Damn it.
23.
I was hoping we were to have because I know you love No More Lonely Nights. So I thought and I know you love it. Like I know it's top 10 for you. I thought you might have had the album up higher.
But then again, you got to look at this as an album as a whole too. You can't just look and say, okay, I love No More Lonely Nights so much that I'm going to make sure that this album is higher top than
10, whatever.
I just can't. I can't do that for one song.
No. As an album as a whole, it's great, but it's a hodgepodge. There's Beatle covers on here again. A couple original tracks. Not Such a Bad Boy, No Values, and No More Lonely Nights. Okay. Sandwiched in with a couple of, the Beatle classics. Some are redoing his own songs, Wanderlust, Ballroom Dancing. Tom's lovely version of Long and Winding Road, which he just cringes whenever he hears that sax.
Yes.
When Paul leaves the Old Justice and he sees Ralph Richardson. A big blue one? Yes, that one. It's an album, but and honestly, I listen to it. It's a soundtrack, and I listen to it a lot. But because it's not a pure album, start to finish, it's got 3 originals on here. It has to. It cannot beat it.
4 if you want to include Goodnight Lonely Princess.
Goodnight Princess. 5. So it's kind of again, Beatle recreations of his own stuff with new material. All great, and I listen to this a lot, actually. Believe it or not, again, I listen to it a lot. But in terms of looking at as an album, the way you would judge any other of his standard proper albums, you can't look at it that way, and that's why, even with a smash hit of all time of No More Lonely Nights, which Tom and I both love, and I know everybody.
That's serious shit, right?
That's it. It had to fall into this ranking, and that's why I put it there. And I didn't think Tom would have it there, but he did. So right now we're 4 for 4.
Yeah, and you know what? And I think not No Values, Not Such a Bad Boy. They're good songs, but they're rockers, which is great because we didn't get a lot of that from Paul in the '80s. But
no,
I don't. They're not like Junior Farm rockers. They're not like Getting Closer, Spin It On rockers. You know what I mean? So I mean they're good, but they're not great, I don't think. And plus, you got all those Beatle covers. Some are cringeworthy, I think, and some are excellent. Some are fine. I know a lot of people.
You've got that half-baked version of Silly Love Songs, which I'm not really crazy about.
It's terrible, right? And then I know a lot of people have a problem with Eleanor's Dream, but I think they have more of a problem with the imagery from the film than the music piece.
Oh, the music is beautiful.
Right. but that kind of imagery from the film kind of sours it a little bit, and that's too bad because it is a nice piece. But again, yeah, I mean, it's almost all covers, which in a way maybe it should have been just all covers, and then just let No More Lonely Nights be its own separate entity, single. Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
if you know the story, that was it was one of the last things that he did for the film
Right.
was come up with that song. He didn't have one until the very
They
end.
needed a big song for the soundtrack or
They
the
didn't. They
film.
didn't. And
Have it.
almost the fact where you were going to call the film "No More Lonely Nights," but they didn't. But I mean, it serves as the focal piece of the whole film. Is that song, the riff that you hear throughout the whole
Right.
thing? Dun, 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 dun. I mean, it's through everything. So it's kind of the unofficial title of the album anyway. But I mean, it's a soundtrack. That's all it is.
Yeah, it's a soundtrack. Yeah. So that was our 23. So we're going to 22, which hopefully now we'll start,
I don't know yet.
going
We'll
in a
see.
different direction. But listen, this album is fine. It's got some hit or misses on here. But I went with 83's Pipes of
Oh,
Peace.
okay, we're different.
Okay. Yeah, we're different, and we all know the story. We all know a lot of these were recorded during the tug of war sessions. Even Say was recorded during tug of war. Not I think there was only 5 tracks that were really recorded just for this album, kind of like Pipes of Peace. I think The Other Me, Hey Hey, was recorded during the tug of war sessions. Tug of Peace. I think Through Our Love was also done during the actual Pipes of Peace
Mm.
session. But again, Tug of Peace is bad. Hey Hey, I just again you've got 3 masterful musicians, and and
Steve
Gadd and
Gadd,
Clark
Clark, and
and
Paul.
McCartney, and it's just it's not good. But there's some stuff on here that I really love. So Bad, absolutely love it. The Other Me, I love it. Pipes of Peace, I love it. But the rest, I think, is just so.
Mm.
So I don't consider this, you know, a good album. I mean, it's a good album. Let's say I don't consider it to be a good piece of work, even though George Martin is on there. We all know that a lot of these songs were leftovers.
See,
So
now you wonder. We just talked about the 3 that he did, well, the 2 that he did on Broad Street. You could have. What if No
right,
Values or Not Such a Bad Boy was on Pipes of Peace, and you
yeah,
toss Tug of Peace and Hey Hey and throw those 2 on there?
right. Oh, and then it gives it a little more pop to it, a little more balls to the album. I think it,
Yeah,
it makes it a completely different record.
totally.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
okay.
So that
Uh,
was my
20,
22. So 22 for you.
22 for me. Oh, Joe Mayo, where are you when I need you, babe? I love you because I know you don't like this one either. Yoing, Driving
Boy.
Rain. Driving Rain at 22. Don't listen to it that much anymore. It's a good record, but I don't come back to it that often. I
Mhm.
just don't. I don't play it that much. I remember I was super amped for this when it came out 20 years ago, more than that now.
Yeah.
But I don't play it that much anymore. I did get a newfound respect though for Riding to Jaipur. Thank you to
Yeah.
Dylan
Yeah.
Seamy, and he kind of enlightened me on that song. When I kind of listened to it through his perspective, I really, really, really love that song now a lot. I'll listen to that the most now. But I mean, okay, it's got the classic ballad on it, "Your Loving Flame," all
Right.
time. That's a great song. Loved it then. Knew it the day that I heard it. It was going to be. It's in that ballad canon. You just knew it. But some of the other songs, "Spinning on an Axis," that song is terrible. I don't
Mm.
love "About You." I think it's too loud. Um, I know you like "She's Given Up Talking." It's too aggressive of a record for me, and I don't like the 10 minutes of "Rinse the Raindrops." I just don't like it.
Mm.
I love the song "Heather." I love "Tiny Bubble." I like "Magic." I like "Your Way," but it's not a record that I'm going to come back to that often for me.
Right.
And that's a shame because I was so into this record for a long, long time, especially in the early 2000s when it came out. But then post Chaos, when we just got them, we got Chaos, Memory Almost Full, Electric
Right.
Arguments. it left this one in the dust. If he had not has been productive, say in the early aughts, then maybe this one goes up a little bit.
Yeah.
But
But the
chaos,
quality of, yeah, I get it. Yeah, the quality of work after this is just totally
better.
buried it.
So
Yeah.
it's got to go. So sorry, love
Yeah.
you, babe, but yeah, you're at 22, gone.
Right.
Driving pain. Thank you, Joe.
Okay. Right. So so that's your 22, right? All right. So
Yes.
we're moving on to 21.
Let me just make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, 21.
Okay. 21. All right. I'm there. I get you. Driving
Okay.
Rain. I listened to this. I bought a cassette and CD, but my truck at the time had a cassette player, so I was just, I played this thing nonstop for like 2 weeks, and kind of wore myself out on it. I think the problem with this thing is like you have all this time now on CD, and
80
you want to
minutes.
fill as much time as you can now on the CD, because now we know this was a double album, right? This was a double
Yep.
LP, and there could be. I mean, even though it's well on the track listing it's 15. We know it's 16 songs, but there might be too much. I can see this being maybe a 12 track CD or record. Maybe take the like spinning on an axis, like you said, not the best thing on there. About You, not the best. Back in the Sunshine, I don't think is that great of a track. Magic, I like lyrically, but I don't necessarily like musically.
Lyrically, because it's about Paul and Linda.
Paul Linda meaning, yeah. So I mean, there's some good stuff on here. I think Lonely Road is actually kind of a pretty good opening album cut. Yeah, exactly. From a lover to a friend, Your Loving Flame. I instantly loved Riding into Jaipur. I would have thought that would have been a great collaboration between him and George. If things worked out better for George. I think this would have been a great collaboration between those two. But again, Heather, I think is musically beautiful. So this album does have some good qualities about it, but as an album as a whole, I just think it's definitely not his best.
No, it's not. And then you get he was really kind of learning the art of kind of putting a new band together again, which he did with the band that he has now. But again, I go back to the concert for New York City with this album because he chose to play Lonely Road and From a Lover to a Friend, and that was not the right venue to be playing those songs. So I kind of think about and the Who blew him out of the water too.
Oh, absolutely.
Which kills me as a Paul fan, but as a Who fan, I love it. But I mean, it was such a big build up. Paul comes out, and then we're gonna do. Oh, here's the new single from my album. And I'm gonna play From a Lover to a Friend to a Madison Square Garden audience that just wants to just rock out.
Right. Yeah, and I just can't stand, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's go for a drive. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's go there and back again.
Go back again.
Yeah.
No, let's not. Let's not.
Yeah.
And that's why it's 21. Damn it. Come
on. So that's my 21.
Or 22 for you. 21 for you, 22 for me. All right, we're similar.
You're 21 now. You're 21.
21. Oh, I am so sorry, Ken Michaels, but they had to go somewhere.
Right.
Press to play. Again, I've since coming on and being a part of Two Legs, I've listened to it more because it's an album we've talked about a lot. I've seen you guys talk about it a lot on Talk More Talk. So I gained new appreciation. Speak, Andy, for a song called Footprints, which I did not really know or care to know until Tom told me about it. So I really love that song now. But Angry, Move Over Busker, Right Away, It's Not True. I'm just not into them. I'm not into those songs really. Some really good moments: Stranglehold, Good Times Coming, Feel the Sun, Only Love Remains, Press. The single of Pretty Little Head, which is one of my all-time favorite McCartney songs, but on this album version just isn't great. The bonus tracks make up for it though with Tough on a Tightrope, but as an album, I think there's originally 10 tracks. It just doesn't do much for me.
Mm,
Produced by Hugh Padgham, who clearly
right.
had a rough time with him working on this album. We got a great little kind of write up and synopsis on the album that pressed to play at 35
Oh,
book
absolutely. Yep.
from Paul at Super Deluxe Edition, which chronicled this album perfectly. But it's
Mm-hmm.
just not one I listen to. Your namesake of your other show being on here is a song that doesn't do much for me either. The good
I
is
agree. Yeah.
the good is great, but the subpar is not that great, and I had to throw it. I had to toss it into the lower half of
Mm,
my rankings for that reason.
right. Gotcha. All right. 20. All right. People know how I feel about this record. It's a little lower than what I would thought. I thought it would be uh, closer to the bottom, but I'm going with Off the
Oh, of
Ground
course it is.
at number 20. And again, it's just there's too much. You know,
Do you think that album has too much of the Choba factor for you with the production? Is it
You
that?
know, it's
Is it
it's
just,
more
or is
the
it the
production
songwriting?
is more the adult contemporary production, the songwriting about dealing with the animals and the this the that the peace in the neighborhood kind of stuff.
Mm.
Just I don't want my favorite musicians. I don't I, you know Listen, you can have your beliefs, and I'm happy for that. But I don't really want them on.
Shoved down my throat.
Yeah, yeah. Some of your beliefs I might believe in, but that doesn't mean it's going to make a good song. You know, Meat Free Monday. But
Yeah.
looking for changes.
Again, this is the whole too many people preaching practices. Like
Yeah,
who's
yeah.
preaching?
Peace in the neighborhood. Come on, people. Just it's not Mr. Sameed is not necessarily. I'll tell you what. I've gained more appreciation for Hope of Deliverance. I think musically it's
Well, because
gorgeous.
that doesn't kind
You
of
know,
reek of the the kind of
right.
adult contemporary feel.
Right. It's more worldly feel,
Yes.
in my opinion. Off the ground, I think is a good lightweight rocker. I love the ballads on here. I love I Owe It All to You. I love Golden Earth Girl. I love Wine Dark Open Sea. Now again, I would like this album more if the lovers that never were was closer to that damn demo from Flowers in the Kiss.
88 from the
Yeah,
88
you
demo.
know, yeah, so I would like it more for that. I've never been a fan of Cosmically Conscious, the shorter version or the longer version. It's just never been something that that I've enjoyed. Get Out of My Way is fine. Bike Like an Icon. I mean, it's okay. I don't get off on it like some other rockers that he's done.
Yeah.
And it's just again, it's just the middle of the road kind of like bottom half record for me that could have been better if he chose some songs. The B stuff. I mean, we've talked about that a lot. I mean, this could have been in my opinion, this could have been a masterpiece.
Throw a
Uh, you know,
long leather coat, and
long
kicked
leg
around no
coat,
more.
kicked around no more. Maybe Big Boys Bickering again. Some of those style I get. Some of those songs are again preaching practices, and
He
but
was
they're
in
just
that.
better. They're just better written songs, better musically as well, in my opinion.
For whatever reason, there, from the late '80s, the Friends of the Earth and everything,
Right.
he kind of got very conscious about his issues and
Right.
his beliefs because I guess he was older. He was in his 50s then. His kids were starting to go into adulthood. I mean, Mary was already probably 20 something by then. So he was kind of, I guess, looking at the world as an older man, not as much as like a grandfather. And I guess for whatever
Right.
reason, his songwriting and his issues, pushing those issues for that couple of years there was like a hotbed for him, and it kind of comes off in the music a little bit,
Hmm.
to your point. So it's lower half for me as well too. It'll be coming up in a few spots as well. But I have my
All
own
right. So
reasons
that's
for
my
that.
yeah. That's my 20. Now, give us your 20, buddy.
20 for me, and it's a great record. I think a lot of people are going to be shocked by this ranking, but I've ranked it where it's ranked because of how it was made It was kind of just made very quickly. It's a smash hit record, and it's a good record, but to me, it's a little bit too democratic, and you probably know where I'm
Mm.
going with it now.
Oh yeah, I
At,
do. Yep.
at 20, I'm going with
I
Speed
know
of
where you're
Sound.
going. Okay. Yep. Yep.
Now, Sacrilege, I am sure this is much higher on your list, purely for the fact that it was a little bit more of a democratic affair. It was a rushed album. The album was made on
In
tour,
between.
in between tours.
Yeah.
So because of that, listen, and I like Joe English as a singer. I like the Denny Lane songs. But to me, listen, with Silly Love Songs, Let 'Em In, you can't go wrong. They're all time classics. But I love the Note You Never Wrote by Denny. I love She's My Baby. But Cook of the House, I'm not going to listen to that much. I'm not going to listen to a whole lot of. I'm not listening to Cook of the House. And honestly, if I'm listening to Let 'Em In and Silly Love Songs, I'm going to Wings Over America. I don't.
Mm.
I think they're just a little too sterile. Maybe they're a little. Maybe
Yeah.
because the radio plays those to death, and the live ones you don't. But this one to me, it's just a little bit too democratic and rushed of an album. It's a great album, and I listened to individual tracks off of it a halfway decent amount. But as an album from start to finish, no. I mean, I love San Ferian, but I don't come back to it that often because there's so many great Wings albums, and to me,
Right.
this is in the lower half of those. This is the bottom of the rankings for the Wings
Right.
albums for me. So
Right.
that's why, even though it's got 2 mega hits on it,
Right.
after,
Right.
that's Speed of Sound is my 20.
It was close. It was close to having two number one hits on it. But
Mm.
anyways, but we should point out though when you say Rush, you can't compare it to like Wildlife, to where that was in a way
That
kind of Rush. That was more inspired by Dylan, getting those songs over with, and then cutting the record. This was, I mean, it was done fast, yeah, but I wouldn't say, I
but
don't know if rushed is the right word for it.
I don't, maybe
Maybe.
not rush, but it definitely was like I don't think as much care or thought or went into this
Hmm.
as went into Band on the Run or Venus and Mars.
Right.
I just
Okay. Fair enough.
I don't think it did. I don't think it did.
Okay.
And then the fact that he gave songs to other people to sing on the record illustrates that point beautifully, because otherwise it would have been more of a Paul production, start to finish. Okay, Joe, you sing one. Denny, you sing one. Jimmy, you sing one. So Linda, you sing one.
Mhm.
I'm not down with that, really.
Right. Well, and I also think this is probably what Red Rose Speedway should have been. You know what I mean? If it was ended up, when it was a double album, you had everybody getting a vocal on Red Rose Speedway, and maybe you also
Well,
add Henry
initially,
B.
yeah, Henry
Yeah,
Blue,
yeah,
and I would only
yeah.
smile and
Smile,
Seaside and all
right?
that. Yeah,
The Seaside one, right? And even cutting Red Rose Speedway from double to a single album, it should have still featured, in my opinion, Seaside Woman, and all those other tracks that featured I Would Only Smile, like you said, right? Maybe I
right.
Lie Around, because that has a couple verses with Denny on lead,
Yeah,
you know. But again, I think that's his thinking. Okay, this is a true band. This is everybody's going to get a lead vocal, but that doesn't always mean it's going to be a better record. But
no,
okay, so moving on.
yes, sir.
19,
19 for
19
you.
for me. Yes, I went with press the play. Yeah, again, this is an album that has kind of grown on me over the years. I've never been particularly fond of this album as a whole. Okay, now I believe there's some absolute standout tracks on here. But like you said, stuff like However Absurd, Angry, Move Over Busker, Talk More Talk. It just, again, you know and I dug a lot of contemporary '80s stuff. I dug a lot of that crazy '80s, production. Some artists it just doesn't work with, and I don't think it works with McCartney. I mean, I think he can be experimental all he wants, but I think there's just some genres I think maybe that just don't work with McCartney's style of songwriting,
No,
or what, I don't know, but
trying to
you know,
shoehorn Paul McCartney into adult contemporary just does not work.
right. Probably.
Peter
But
Cetera? Yes. Paul McCartney?
yeah,
No.
yeah, no. Look, Only Love Remains, yes. Press, yes. Footprints, absolutely. I'll take that all day long. But the Pretty Little Head. I mean, I would prefer that 12-inch mix being
Oh,
on this record. Good Times Coming, Feel the Sun. I've always enjoyed, but again, those songs I enjoy to where the songs coming up on other albums I love, and I just consider them to be great. When I remember seeing Press on MTV all the time,
sure.
but and I love it, but for whatever reason it didn't make me want to go out and buy the album, and it was just really weird. So anyways, so that's my
19.
19. Yep,
All right.
19 for you, buddy.
19 for me. Okay, we're staying with Wings. We're staying with Wings. And it's Wildlife. It's Wildlife.
Understood. Yeah.
Um, and again, it's so hard to rank because it's a great album. It's got one of the best side twos ever in Paul's career, with Some
Right.
People Never Know,
Yeah.
Tomorrow, I Am Your
Yep.
Singer, and
Your
Dear Friend.
friend. Right.
That is a great side two. However, side one just doesn't do it for me with Mumbo and Bip Bop. And I
Right.
even think the song Wildlife's a little too long. Now, Some People
Oh
Never
yeah.
Know,
Absolutely.
it's too
Right.
long, but you kick it over side two. Some People Never Know. As we recently had on our show, Fernando Perdomo. It's his favorite song. He
Yeah.
loves it.
Favorite Wings song. Yep.
It's his favorite Wings song. So it has a great side too. But the side one, I just don't go back to it. Love is Strange. The cover is okay, and Tom
Mm-hmm.
recently got that little awesome Mexican
Mexican
EP,
EP. Yeah.
which looks so cool. I am so jealous
Right.
he got that. I want it because it is so cool. But
Yeah.
now this we're talking about rushed. This clearly he admitted this was a rushed album, trying to follow on the footsteps of Dylan, which I think was the New Morning album,
Mm.
which was also 1970. I think around the same time. So it's rushed, but again, I think it works a little bit better. It works better, in my opinion, than Speed of Sound because the songwriting is
Mm-hmm.
better. With Some People Never Know, I Am Your Singer, Tomorrow, and Dear Friend. Those alone are all time McCartney classics. Even I Am Your Singer. So,
Mm-hmm.
but the lackluster side one for me is why this has to get ranked in the bottom half and of the lesser of the Wings albums. And that's the last two Wings albums you're going to see uh, for me in this kind of bottom third of the rankings. Okay, because everything else from here
Okay.
on out is a freaking home run. But these for Wings, but these albums for whatever I
Right.
don't again the bonus tracks. I mean this edition of the CD which I grew up with first is the
Right.
87 EMI, which had bonus tracks of Oh Woman, Oh Why, Mary Had a Little Lamb, and Little Woman Love, which to me made it a great listening experience with those bonus tracks. But then, and I kind of always associated those tracks with Wildlife tracks, but now they've been repackaged now on the archive, Red Rose
Right.
Speedway, and that's kind of really truer to what they were because Henry wasn't in the band for this album,
Not
but
yet. Not yet.
Henry's on those tracks, so they're really Red Rose Speedway era bonus tracks. But I always kind
Right.
of I lumped Mary Had a Little Lamb and Was a Wild because that's just it's how I knew the album was with
Right.
this first. I mean, I wore this thing out in the early '90s when I got this. I wore this CD to death with those
Mm.
bonus tracks because it was the only way to get
Right.
it was the only way to get them if you didn't have the vinyl or whatever. So, but yeah, that's Wildlife for me is number 19 and the last Wings album you'll see from me for a while.
Okay. Very good. 18, right? All right. So, you had this one a few picks ago, and I'm going with 76 Wings at the Speed of Sound. Now, take nothing away from silly love songs and Let 'Em In. Two wonderful hits for Wings in that time. I think my biggest problem is some of the lesser the deeper cuts, and I'm a deep cut guy.
Mm,
I can go deep cuts any day of the week with anybody. But Must Do Something About It. I think it would have been just better off if it was just left McCartney singing it. maybe. Time to Hide it's a good song, but again, better live.
Yep,
Cook,
1000%,
of
brother.
yeah, Cook of the House. That should have stayed in the house and not on a record. You know, um, Wino Junko again.
Yeah.
Good song, but I think
See,
Medicine Jar
that's
was
why I think
probably a little better.
it
You
should.
know,
That's why I call it a rush job, because he just didn't
right.
want to. He didn't want it. He was on a tour, and he's like, okay, we got to focus on the tour. The album and the songwriting was secondary for this record, and that's why.
Maybe, but again, the Note You Never Wrote. Again,
Great.
another fine song, but probably better live than on the album. So all in all, I think it's got some good stuff. I think Warm and Beautiful is fine. I think Sanfarian is fine. And obviously, Beware My Love too. Again, is a great rocker, but so much more powerful live, like you said. So a lot of these songs just play better on Wings Over America, and I agree with you on that. But it's still a good record. I mean, it went to number one. I mean, here we are. We're putting a number one in the bottom half of
Right.
a
Right.
McCartney.
Which again, we
McCartney
would put again
countdown.
against anybody else's albums, and if they were, they'd say, "What are you
Right.
talking about?" We would be like, "It's great,"
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
McCartney's, we're going to compare all of McCartney's material.
Right.
These albums have to get ranked somewhere.
Like this would be
For
like a
anybody else,
secondary band for a
right,
secondary band, maybe like a Seals and Crofts or
right, or
anybody, Ambrosia. It's just
Air Supply or something.
it's,
Like one of them, some for
this
Air
would be
Supply
the best album,
of all time for like a
of all
secondary band
time.
with two
Yeah,
with two massive hits on
two
it. One,
making massive hits on it.
and
Yeah,
we're like, it's okay. With
yeah,
somebody would give their left arm for that kind of success.
absolutely.
And here we are going, it's okay. But such as
It's okay.
when you're going through Paul McCartney's music and the Beatles, let's just face it, that's just
Right,
how it is.
right,
there's them, and then there's everybody
right.
else. That's what I always tell
That's
everybody.
right.
There's the
Yep,
Beatles and the solo, and then you can rank anybody else after that. That's it.
right.
Done.
Yep, yep. All right, we're going 18 with you, buddy.
18 for me. Tom mentioned it a little while ago. For me, it's going to fall to number 18, and that's Off the Ground.
Mm.
And I probably, if this was in the 90s, I would have had this probably in the top 10. Purely for the nostalgia factor. This was, again, an early album that I kind of came into my fandom with when it came out. So I have more sentimental connections to it because I was of the age I could start getting CDs and stuff as gifts.
Right.
I remember this really well. I was probably, I don't know, 10 or 11 when this came out. So I was really into it, the promotion, the average. So I recall I enjoy it now. Probably a little bit less because it's of, again, the issues that are on it. And again, I really enjoyed it more in the 90s than I do now, but I still love it. I mean, I play these tracks individually quite a bit. I prefer the band version of The Lovers That Never Were. I like that better on this than the
Right.
88 demo. I love the big production sound on it. Now the 88 demo is awesome, and Costello himself says that's the version to go to. I get it.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
I enjoy the production of Lovers That Never Were on this album. Wine Dark Open Sea, I love. Golden Earth Girl, I love. The ballads are home runs on this album for me. Come On People, I love that song. I like Cosmically Conscious. I like the title track, Off the Ground. I like Mistress and Maid. Owe It All to You, Biker and Peace in the Neighborhood, not so much. But Wine Dark and Golden Earth Girl and all those are, to me, that's top tier McCartney ballads right there. And so I come back to it, as songs individually enough. Off the Ground, the title track is kind of weaned a little bit on me. It sounds a little too hokey now. Looking for Changes, yeah, I like it. It's got a good riff on it, but again, more of a nostalgia factor for me. I have it. That's why I had it at 18. And if it had been even 5 years ago, I might have had it a little bit higher. But such is the discography. It's always evolving and changing.
Yeah, very true, very true. And that's the thing about an artist that continues to produce music, and not just retire. you know,
Mhm.
Son of Laura. Okay, so that brings us to 17, I believe. And this one I kind of struggled where I wanted to put it because there's some stuff on here that I really, really love, and there's some stuff on here that songs on here that's really, grown on me over the years. Especially since I've been doing this podcast, and that's 1980s McCartney 2. So this is my number 17 pick. But I mean, obviously, I've always been a bigger fan of the studio version of Coming Up. I know that the live version has its fans, and I think that's fantastic. Temporary Secretary, I've always kind of enjoyed. I enjoy it more now. I always thought that do 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 was kind of annoying at first. The first 100 times I've heard this album, I kind of didn't dig it. On the Way, I've always enjoyed. Waterfalls has been a song that never, got to me. Front Parlor, Summer Day songs, I thought is okay. Frozen Jet doesn't do anything for me, but Dark Room is like for me like the deep cut on this that really I
Come
really
along
yeah
with me.
yeah exactly. And the song that's really grown on me over the last 10 plus years is One
One
of
of
These
these
Days.
days,
I think
yeah.
it's just so beautiful,
Hmm.
and
That
lyrically
song
and
with a little
musically.
more production would have been something if it had a little more production
Maybe,
on that.
yeah, maybe make that the follow up single instead of Waterfalls. Who knows? Maybe, but I think that's a beautiful track. Uh, you know, but again, you're getting to that point now. We're in that middle section, and now you're just looking at it from the song aspect of it rather than the
Then
album
then
aspect
an
of it.
album, right, right.
Right, yeah. How many songs do I love more than say the album that's before this and after it? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So yeah, so right now I've got McCartney 2 at 17.
Okay, that works out well for me too because I have McCartney too, also at
Oh, no kidding.
17. I
So that's
also have,
four albums that we've got that match
yeah,
so far.
I've got McCartney too at 17, and I struggled with this one as well when I was making my list this morning before we started recording because it's an album I play an awful lot. I really do. I like
Mm-hmm.
the experimental side of Paul McCartney, especially with the keyboards and the synths. As a prog guy, I love that stuff. I really love this album. And again, there's not one track that I would skip. Not really. I love everything about it. On the Way is probably one that I would probably skip a little bit. I happen to love Waterfalls. I think it's one of the best songs he's ever written. I never get tired of it. All 4 minutes and 44 seconds of it. I love Waterfalls. I love the video for it. Summer's Day Song, beautiful. The instrumentals, Front Parlor and Frozen Jap. I'm more of a fan of Front Parlor than Frozen Jap. I think Front Parlor is great. I always thought that would be a great kind of bumper music for a radio show to use.
Mm-hmm.
Front Parlor, I've loved that. I've loved that track. One of These Days, Darkroom. Bogey music is so wildly good, and I know that our friend Ethan Alexanian, he loves it. He loves that track. Um, I love McCartney too, for the reason that it's just so experimental.
Right.
But again, we're I'm entering that middle period that I talked about at the top of the show. What do you rank stuff from 11 to about 17 or 18? Because I like them. The next bunch of albums I like equally the same, but I just had to rank them. I don't like them any less. I just had to rank them based on where they are. It's kind of a mood album too. You have to be kind of in a certain mood to listen to McCartney too. I think is a fair to say as well. Again, I knew
Sometimes.
this. I knew this again with these. I just grabbed the ones that were nearby because the remasters are in another room. The first CD here has the bonus tracks of Check My Machine and Secret Friend on the initial EMI pressing. And then again, which is weird, another version, if you've seen out there, has Good Night Tonight as a bonus track on this too, which is,
Right.
have you
Right.
seen that one, Tom?
Yeah, I believe. Yeah, I think I've seen that. Was that the '93 one, or is that there was
No.
the no?
No, actually, is it the 93? Let's take a look. I don't know. I don't have it offhand. Wait a
It
minute. Is it the
probably
90?
has
No,
Wonderful Christmas
it
Time.
is. It is the 93. The 93
Yes.
has Good
Okay.
Night Tonight on it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Which is just so weird. But I enjoy
Yeah.
it. It's an album. It's an album I play a lot. If I want to freak people out and say, "Here's a Paul McCartney record," they're gonna go, "What?" And I put this one on. So
Right.
I don't dislike it. I love everything about it. It's just it had to fall somewhere. So 17 it
Right.
was.
Okay. Fair enough. So 16. Now again, you had this one already. You said how much you loved, that the B side, which I think I absolutely adore. The B side. It's very strong. It might not be as strong as one side of a record, but a lot of great stuff on there, and that's 71's Wildlife. Now, the issue I have with this is the motivation, the approach. Let's just go in there, brand new band, and let's just knock out, you know, 4, 5, 6 songs, first take, done. Now, I feel like this again, and I love this record, and I feel like this could have been a masterpiece because not only does he have some good songs on here already, I mean he's sitting on songs like A Love for You, right? He's sitting on songs like Little Woman Love. He's sitting on Little Lamb Dragonfly.
Dragonfly, yep.
Yeah, songs that I think would fit wonderfully
1882.
on 1882. Songs I think would fit wonderfully on Wildlife. And obviously, we cut some of those songs down. The song Wildlife is way too long. Dear Friend, for as little lyrics is in the song,
Too long.
could be cut down. Right.
Yep.
Some people never know one of my all-time favorite tracks.
That doesn't need to get cut.
I'm fine with the length on that, but
Yes.
still, that could maybe come down, a minute, maybe. But fine. But again, with the strength of side 2, like you said earlier, I think just makes it better. Makes it a good album. Dear Friend, Tomorrow is the single that never was. Why they even would have thought Love Is Strange would make a good
Why
single?
is that getting pushed when Tomorrow? That
Right.
is Scream.
That's showcasing Wings, what they would become the rest of the decade. With the backing, especially the backing vocals on that, I think are fantastic with Linda and Denny, and Paul. So again, maybe slow down the production or the approach, and maybe finish off songs like A Love for You, Little Lamb Dragonfly. I think that would have made
Mama's Little Girl.
better.
Mama's Little Girl.
Right. I think that was. I have to go back, but I think that was recorded. No, right around the same time. But yeah, I think it would have made an excellent album. Maybe like I think it would have made an excellent singer, like a singer-songwriter album, even though it was a band.
Right.
But it could have that same approach in a way. But yeah, it's still a really good album. And
Basically,
I'm glad that
it's Ram. It's Ram with the addition of Denny Lane.
Like a Ram Light, maybe. But I'm super happy that it's being reevaluated favorably. I remember getting this. Yeah. I remember getting this album back in '99 because my uncle and I at the time were doing our, with the Beatles Never Broke Up CDs,
Right.
And I remember, right. Yeah, exactly. And I remember listening to this album, and I just like. One song came on, I was like, the next song came on, I'm like, oh, and the next song, and just, and then getting to side 2, and just like, wow, this album is a lot better than its reputation. And that was '99,
Was that your first time? What was your first exposure to it?
That's my first exposure to it. Yeah, it was in '99. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yet you knew Paul stuff from the '80s, but some of the other stuff you didn't get until later. Interesting.
You know what? Because I foolishly looked into what critics were saying about past albums, and they panned the shit out of this album.
Mistake number one.
Yeah, exactly. I won't ever do that. Make that mistake again. So Wildlife was my 16.
Because other than one or two, I think we're kind of on par with where we think what is the great and what is not so great. We'll have some very different, some very different, but we're on par with for the themes anyway, where these albums are, where they rank. 16 for me. God, I wish I could have this higher. I really do, but this is where it has to sit for me right now. And it's his most recent one too.
Wow. Okay.
Mccartney 3.
Yeah.
At 16 for me. I'm gonna be honest. I have not gone back to that this much
Hmm.
from that end of 2020 hype. Um, Individual tracks, like the other morning I was going to work, I put on Find My Way, Pretty Boys, and
Right.
Sliding and Seize the Day.
Hmm.
And I love those songs are awesome. I just have a hard time staying with it. To listen to 8 minutes of Deep Deep Feeling, and that that 2020 kind of newness wore off for me already. Um,
Hmm.
is again, this is middle of the road. I think other albums that he did in the 2000s were a lot better, and that's why they're going to come after this. So I have to call. Listen, some people might think, "Oh, it's so great, I'm going to have it in the top 10 just because it's a new McCartney record." I can't do that. I can't. I just
Right.
can't do that. Oh, the latest and greatest is always the best. I can't go with that. Now, I mean, it's a fine record for what it was, but it was made out of boredom. So it wasn't like his previous one, which went into multiple years of creation and writing and planning, and of course that's Egypt Station, and we'll get to that in a little bit. I'm sure you too.
Yeah.
But I like it. I just don't love it. But what I like, I think is great. "Seize the Day" is one of my favorite songs by him. It's like on a With a Little Luck level. That's how much I love that
Hmm.
song. Same thing with Sliding. Great band number. Deep Down, I don't really like Deep Down. I like When Winter Comes, the Flaming Pie leftover at the end, and how it bookends with Long Tail Winter Bird to open and it bookends nice. Find My Way is a great rocker. I don't like Women and Wives. I'm not really big into Lavatory Lil, and I think obviously Pretty Boys is a great track. Thank you, Dylan Seavey. Kiss of Venus, I like, but other than that, and Deep Deep Feeling, I like, but I just can't listen to the
Right.
whole thing straight through anytime soon, like I could with a few other albums. And it's a shame because it's like, oh, it's his most recent one and everything, and it did well, but I mean, again, I'm a little bit burnt out on it, and that's just how I feel.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, for McCartney 3, and that's why for me it's at 16.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Number 15. We are going to go way, way back to the beginning of the McCartney record. Again, an album where I kind of struggled with its placement, and looking at it as an album as a whole, and how I've talked about it before, where it feels not finished, and this album really is being carried on the strength of maybe I'm amazed, right, and the couple lesser tracks in Teddy Boy, Every Night, and maybe Junk, maybe Sing Along
Mm,
Junk as well, but those also feel not necessarily finished as well. I mean, I know it's a stripped down production. It's your basic, starting over,
indie.
making an album, yeah, indie, making an album in your home kind of, record. But again, that doesn't necessarily going to mean it's going to be a great, a great record. And obviously we've got the big maybe. I'm amazed, but how far does that really you know, bring an album. How far does that really carry it?
How
How
does it
we
carry it?
talked
How does it
right?
carry it? Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that with No More Lonely Nights. Great track, but that doesn't mean that it's going to elevate the album into top
Yeah.
10 status.
Yeah.
You know,
On the strength of one song.
on the strength of one song, right? And hopefully people out there will agree with that. But but some great stuff on here. Absolutely. I mean, I absolutely adore, Man, We Was Lonely. That would be something. But again, it doesn't really, elevate to McCartney
Top.
greatness.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I could
yeah.
understand
So,
that. I could definitely understand that and see why people you'd have that middle of the road ranking for that album because
right.
it's uneven. It's in spots and
That's a good word. Yeah, uneven. Yeah, is good. Yeah, I
it's
like that.
uneven and it's uneven in spots. So I could,
Right.
but that some people might have it in their top 10. And
Hmm.
I could totally see
And I
why.
can understand that. And I can understand that too. But I can also understand, and it makes more sense to me that, where I've got the ranking. So
Sure. No,
just
I
being
get it.
honest to myself, so.
I get it.
All right. So that's 15, and now we're going 15 for you.
15 for me. Okay, sticking to the 2000s, and from here on out, to 10 to 15, you could interchange them. I adore every one of these records, and there's very little weak points on everything else from me here on out. But for 15, we're going to go to Paul's first album on the old Starbucks label, Memory Almost Full. Yeah, this is a sealed copy I still have sitting around.
Oh, very cool.
That's not opened, actually.
Right.
I have a couple of them. Yeah, it's still sealed. Yeah, light years better than Driving Rain. Absolutely love Memory Almost Full. The only thing I don't like about it is the EQ and the loudness factor.
Yes,
That's the only thing I don't like about the record, because of the way of the loudness wars that was going on in music production back then, with where they had everything, And in fact, you hear the opening track, "Dance Tonight," and you think that's a drum, right?
Right.
It's not. It's his foot. That's how high. That's how high the mics were.
Right.
With everything. It's his foot tapping going. Dun. Would you think it sounds like a drum? Which is crazy to think about it. But yeah, absolutely love everything. They call it 13 brand new songs. Of course, this is the album that has the first ever Paul McCartney medley on it for you folks as well at the end. Top tier songwriting on it, though. See Your Sunshine, Only Mama Knows, Mr. Bellamy, which I love, Gratitude, which I'm not crazy about Gratitude. Musically, I'm not crazy about Gratitude. Musically, it's okay, but not crazy. Not in love with his vocals on that one. Vintage Clothes, love it. You Tell Me, love it. Feed in the Clouds, House of Wax, End of the End, the aforementioned medley, awesome. Right. Especially the end of the end, which is such an emotional listening experience. Listening to him as a 64-year-old guy at the time,
right?
Which is crazy, talking about his ending, which is crazy. Right. Ever Present Past, which was the first single, but Dance Tonight has the staying power, and it's still on the set list. It's still on the set list, which I love. Dance Tonight. A lot of people think it's hokey, but
I think it's funny too. It's kind of funny because in a way, I think it's still in the set list because of Abe, and his little antics behind Paul, and you'll get it when you see him on the 16th. It's just he's having a great time doing it, and I'm wondering if that's why he keeps it in the set list, is for to give the spotlight onto his other musicians.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a great record through and through. Gratitude is the only one I'm not really crazy about. But everything else on here, especially Only Mama Knows. I was found in the transit lounge of a dirty airport lounge. It's just awesome. Again, if this ever got properly remixed, boy, maybe talk about a half-speed master on vinyl. That would be very nice to get this done properly, remixed and redone and re-EQ'd and on 2 LPs. Boy, that would be nice, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, we're gonna have to wait a couple decades still for it.
Probably. But the Memory Almost Full for me. Love it. This is number 15 for me on my rankings. And other than the shoddy artwork, which the artwork is an absolute garbage. One of the worst covers of all time. But the music on it is a home run, and it's 15.
That's your 15. Okay. Moving on, 14 for me. Again, this album features a side that I absolutely adore. It's one of those. I love the one side, but the second side not so much. And my number 14 is Red Rose Speedway. Now, and that's on the strength of the A side. I mean, if the A side, if I didn't like it, I mean, this album could have been, bottom half, and I know how much you love this album, and I can't wait to see, how high you have this one. But again, the double album that number was, I love, the artwork that was in here. The original album was cool. Obviously you got the lyrics, some wonderful photographs. I mean, I've always loved this photo of Linda on
the bike.
Yeah, kick-ass photo. But the A side for me is really where this album's at. Big Barn Bed, My Love, Get on the Right Thing, One More Kiss, and Little Lamb Dragonfly.
It is a perfect album design.
It is a perfect album side. The second side, okay, Single Pigeon. I kind of poop on it every once in a
Do you
while.
need a pal for a minute or
Right,
two?
but I played this album not too long ago, and Single Pigeon kind of was fine. I mean, it wasn't as annoying as it had been to me in the past. The one that is really starting to stand out for me.
When the night.
No, actually, is Loop.
Oh wow,
I just
The Pink
yeah,
Floyd
yeah,
outtake.
yeah, the Pink Floyd take. I just really, I think it's kind of creative
You
and
and them
different.
damn instrumentals, Creed
Yeah,
Core, Loop. Come
I
on.
know it's yeah, but but I still I just still can't wrap my head around the medley. And listen, and I'm glad it has as many fans as it does. That you know ecstatic. Even though McCartney forgot about this while talking about the Memory Almost Full medley. Obviously it wasn't as memorable to him either. But
No,
but
no.
I'm glad that medley has its fans, and I think that's great. It's just not me. So Red Rose Speedway. What do I have it here at number 14?
14 for you. All right.
Yeah,
I knew that wasn't going to be in the top 10 for you,
yeah.
but 14 for me. Sticking with the
Mm-hmm.
2000s, Paul, we're going to go with New from
Ooh, cool.
from
Very cool.
2013.
Okay.
Um, again, what we talked about, I talked about it when I ranked Driving Rain. If he had done nothing else in the 2000s, Driving Rain would have been better. But New, for
Right.
me, is a great record, and one that I play back a lot. Almost 10 years
Mm-hmm.
later now, I listen to it quite often. Still, a couple times a month, maybe, or every few months, I'll play it in my car. Um, Paul trying again made with multiple producers: Ronson, Epworth,
Right.
um,
Martin.
Mar Giles, and
Mm. Epworth,
Ethan Johns
Ethan John. Yeah.
Glenn's son. I wasn't too fond of the title of the album. I love the artwork, but the title of the album and the title track are probably the least favorite things about it that I like. I'm not a fan of the song New. It's okay. To me, it's like Penny Lane Light. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but that's probably the least favorite song on here. Save Us, such a good freaking opener. Alligator, which is a song that Tom
Right.
really likes. I love
Yep.
Alligator. Awesome. On My Way to Work, Queenie Eye, still in the set list
Yep.
now. Early Days, about him and John. Again, the track New, Appreciate, which again is Paul being a little more modern. Everybody out there, okay, I could take or leave that one. It's a little bit of a kind of crowd stamper. It's okay. Hosanna, I Can Bet, which I love because you've got the Wings Mellotron coming in there.
Right.
Looking at Her, awesome. Road, on the album proper. Then this one here has a couple bonus tracks. It's not, and then the super deluxe one that's up there too. But for me, um, I still wasn't even ready for another new Paul album after when I was still riding high with New when Egypt Station came out. I was like, oh, okay, another one, but because New was I was still to me it was
Yeah.
still fresh. I'm like, this is a great
Right.
record. I don't think he needs another new one, but
Right.
we got Egypt Station, and that's a great record. So
Right.
to me, I absolutely adore New. I think it's a great record, start to finish. Bar one or two clunkers, with only really being to me New and everybody out there. Other than that, I love the record. I like that he's kept Queenie Eye in the set. I'm not something you're as big on that one. Queenie
Well, I
Eye.
enjoy Queenie Eye. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, you
Yeah. I
do.
enjoy it. Yeah.
Um, and again, he started again. This is where there were multiple. The first edition of New was the red one, and
Mm-hmm.
then there was this one, and then we had the nice book that had everything else, all the extra cuts that were in there, which are just as good as anything on the album. Turned out again, Get Me Out of Here, Hell to Pay, which is great. Struggle.
Was it Struggle or Scared that was the untitled track on there?
Scared.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, they had Untitled track as well.
Yeah.
So really, you get a lot of good.
Maybe track.
Yeah, you get a lot of good bang for your buck here with this record in terms of the
Mm-hmm.
quality, the songwriting, the production. With having four different producers on it, I absolutely adore New, and it's almost 10 years old now, which is crazy, and I do not get tired of it at all. Awesome record.
Great. Cool. So that was your number
14.
what? 14. Okay, so that's like pretty much the halfway mark. Before we continue, I do want to do a little housekeeping here and say how much we appreciate all of you guys. And please, if you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell button so you know when new shows are dropping. Hit that thumbs up. That really helps out the show. And we also got another added feature here, which a few people have partaken in. But if you feel like you like what we're doing, you want to help support the show, hit that $ icon, and if you can, whether it's $1, 20, 30, whatever. I mean, whatever you feel like you can help support the show with, please, if you don't mind, throw us a couple bucks if if you think we deserve it. But that would be really nice of you guys, and that again, that all that money goes to helping the show, whether it's mics or equipment or paying for Podbean, but it all goes straight to the show. We're not
Thank
going
you.
to we're not going to retire on it or anything like that, obviously.
No.
Yeah, but it's just just a way of saying thanks, and obviously we say thanks all the time too, and we appreciate you guys being here. So again, please hit that subscribe button and that bell and that thumbs up, and again, everybody, you guys rock.
Thank
Now,
you, everybody who has
yes,
donated too. Thank you very much.
yes, we really appreciate it.
Very, very much.
Now, yeah, top 13. Now we're going to switch it up, and now Andy, you're going to go first now, and we'll go ahead.
Lucky number 13. Staying
Right.
with modern Paul, Egypt Station, the Explorers Edition.
Right.
Absolutely. I just when I thought he couldn't outdo himself with new, we get this record. And I mean, it's just, and again, this record is now 4 years old, and I listened to it more than McCartney 3, which is 2 years old. So that tells you all you need to tell you in terms of how I think where McCartney 3 is. But Egypt Station from start to finish is a bona fide Paul McCartney project. It's sequenced great. There's a theme going on here with the opening station, closing station.
Right.
I think it's up there. I was almost going to have it in the top 10. I really was trying to figure out a way to sneak it into the top 10, but I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. But everything about it, I know a lot of people don't like. I don't know, it's kind of a little bit of a slow song to open up the album.
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of us were kind of weirded out by that, but then a lot of people enjoyed it as the opener as well.
Yes. Yeah, I thought it was great because a lot of his albums do open up with, as George Martin used to call it, a pot boiler, right? That was something right out of the gate. And this was a little different this time to open up with something a little bit more reflective and mournful, and I took to it right away. Come On to Me, I didn't like as much, but it's kind of growing on me now because I didn't really love it initially. Happy With You, which Tom, you kind of enlightened me on that one a little bit more about his take on it. He really liked that one, and I'm listening to it through his perspective. I enjoyed that one. Who Cares? Love it. The only one I'm not crazy about on this album is For You. I don't really like that song that much. I don't like it. Confidant, awesome. People Want Peace. I'm not as big into that song as I was when the album was new. I like it still, but I don't like it as much. Tom's kind of vibe is kind of on with me with that one. It's okay, but it's not what I thought it was a couple of years ago. Hand in Hand, same kind of thing. Dominoes, awesome. Absolutely. Yeah. Dominoes, Confidant, that's top 10 McCartney. Back in Brazil, even still great production on that. Do It Now, something his dad used to say. Caesar Rock, okay, nothing special about that. Despite Repeated Warnings, I like it too, and I love the ending with a Hunt You Down Naked ceiling to close the album out. I really, really enjoy the record. I do not get tired of it, and it still features regularly in my McCartney playlist of listening music. Egypt Station 2018, and then again the incredible bonus tracks, and there were plenty on this one. But we're not talking about them, but just the main canon album. And boy, this album, 4 years later, still does not disappoint at all.
Okay. All right. So 13 for me. 13 for me. I know I got this way lower than what you're going to have it. I just know it. And that doesn't mean that I dislike the album. I love this album. just unfortunately, there's 12 more that I tend to enjoy a little bit more. And we're talking about London Town. Yeah, I know. I know. Listen, I would have really. There's some songs on here that are wonderful. Okay, absolutely wonderful. Some of the best I think that Denny and Paul have done together. Deliver Your Children. I think is excellent. London Cafe on the Left Bank is just a kick-ass track. I would have loved to have seen Denny. I mean, not Denny, but English and Jimmy stay. I wish they stayed with the band. I would have loved to have heard some of these songs
with a full
live.
band. Yeah.
Yeah. If they toured this record, like in the UK or even in the US or whatever, I've had enough. It's just like a mid-tier rocker in my opinion, but would have it been better live? You know what I mean? Name and
Well,
Address.
you got it live. You got it live later in the
Yeah,
next year.
yeah, but I wanted to hear it with Jimmy.
With Jimmy
playing guitar. Cafe on the Left Bank. I think it would have been killer seeing Jimmy on there doing his guitar bits. On here. Backwards Travel. I like. I've had enough. Is fine, but with a little luck, I think is again the standout track. I've always loved that track. I know people. It's again another silly McCartney track. Don't care.
Don't
Fantastic.
care.
Don't care. Fantastic. I love the extended. The way it was meant to imagine. Yeah, exactly. And the track that I've really, since we talked about this early, we had Owen Ling on, to talk about this record. Morris Moose and the Grey Goose has just, come up in stature for me, in this canon that, and I mean, the tracks I really just don't really like. I mean, I've never been a fan of Don't Let It Bring You Down.
Name and Address.
Name and Address, Children, never been the biggest fan of. But other than that, this is, I'm Carrying is nice.
Oh.
I mean, this is a solid record. I mean, number 2. I mean, I think this was, after a 5 number 1 album run.
In America.
The number 1, right? Yeah, in America. The number 1 couldn't with a little luck couldn't bring it over the.
Well, you see, Paul had
but,
to deal with a little record called Saturday Night Fever with this. So
right.
It kind of
nobody was getting past that. No one was getting that past that.
No.
But this I think is a solid record, and let's hope that we're gonna get this with Back to the Egg for the archive release, and I think people are gonna. I always see mixed talk about this album on social media. And I really think people are going to come to, the ones that don't really care for it. I think they're going to come around to it and appreciate it more.
It's a Wings. It's like a pastoral album,
right?
If you like that kind of phrase,
right?
Yeah, I have it higher. So I'll just save my thoughts on it for later. You knew that though.
I knew going in. Yeah.
No, but you all good points on that record, and I think it's an album that's probably grown in stature for you over the last few years, probably.
Oh, absolutely, right? Absolutely, yeah, yep.
Excellent. Moving on, number 12 for me. We're gonna go back to where it all began with McCartney.
Oh, okay.
With McCartney, for the first one, your points. We were talking about it earlier when you had it ranked. How do you look at it as a whole? It's kind of uneven. I think that's that's the unevenness. I think is the theme of the album. I think that's one of the things that I like about it. Yes,
it's charm for you.
Yeah. It's what I like about it. It's why I like the unevenness is the theme of the album, which is why I like it. Short little opening track, Lovely Linda, simple jams. I hear Valentine Day, Hottest Sun, kind of just quirky. Paul being Paul. The nostalgia factor. What the album meant for him is it for his career, starting over, starting fresh. After the Beatles, again, it's not it's not a Tug of War or Band on the Run or all these Rams or albums that we know we're going to get to, but it's an important album and it needs to be in that top half of the ranking. For me, it did anyway. And again, the hodgepodginess of it. I mean, but you still got Teddy Boy. You've got
Right.
sing along junk. Okay,
Right.
beautiful, beautiful.
Beautiful.
Okay,
Absolutely. Yeah.
every night. Okay, Manly Was Lonely. Okay, the instrumentals, Mama Miss America, and Valentine Day. Awesome. Okay, the only one I'm not crazy about was Queen of Glory, which Tom loves.
Hmm.
That's cool too. But it's a funky way to close the album out. I listen to it quite a bit still, even though it's not a full. I know what you're saying. It's not a full album proper, but to me, that unevenness is what has the charm, and the fact that
Okay.
it was his first one. Uh,
Hmm.
and Cameron Crowe thought highly of it because he included
Oh,
both songs,
absolutely.
two songs from it, and Jerry Maguire.
Jerry Maguire. Yeah. True. Very true.
So yeah, and of course, and I think George was on record saying that he liked That Would Be Something, and
Hmm.
when it came out, and I just think people were expecting they wanted Abbey Road when Paul released his first solo record, and he was like, "I'm just starting over from scratch. Let me do my own thing." And
Right.
They wanted to hear Golden Slumbers and all this polished production Beatles stuff that he had done the second half of the Beatles career, and he came out with a very lo-fi, funky album. And now people are like, yeah, it's great, but back then it was pretty, it was trash,
Right.
and which stinks. But yeah, the original, the first one for me is number 12.
Okay. 12 for me. You know, going back to when I would have liked to have seen Paul McCartney live for the first time. We're gonna go with Flowers in the Dirt.
Okay,
Now, yeah, yeah. Kind of like return to form for McCartney as we talked about. Going back to the roots with Choba. Coming in. Working with Elvis Costello, working with some fantastic producers on this record, and this really having strong material again. Well written lyrics. I think. Musically wise, I've never worried about McCartney musically.
musically, yeah.
Yes, where you worry about him sometimes is lyrically, because sometimes he can be, I think, a little lazy lyrically, and sometimes he's brilliant. And I think a lot of Flowers in the Dirt, with the help of Elvis Costello, kind of recharged motivated him lyrically.
Gave him that shot in the
And
arm he needed, and
yeah,
he
exactly,
needed somebody to tell him no. Let's try it this way.
right, exactly.
That he
Um,
respected though too.
George Harrison didn't like that much, but I don't think Paul liked that too much either.
No,
But yeah, it kind of got reversed on him a little bit here. With hey lads, look, if we just try it this way.
ah, I can get back. Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
But yeah, right off the bat, My Brave Face. I mean, I tell you, I, my excitement whenever that song came on the radio or on MTV, it was just stop what you're doing
and watch
and
it
enjoy and watch it or
or listen
listen
to it.
and just enjoy the ride. It was the first time I bought a 45 with my own money for the first McCartney 45 I bought. Obviously, the B side was excellent too. But
Fly Away Home. Yeah,
yeah, right. And I just think that 1 through 8, this album I think is just
the best
fantastic.
of the best, right? But then it peters out for you.
Exactly. It kind of peters out towards the end, unfortunately. But yeah, Rough Ride, You Want Her Too, Distractions, We Got Married, Put It There, Figure of 8, this one, Don't Be Careless, Love. Even that day is done. Um, you know, I can appreciate. Last three songs, if you want to call Oul Soleil, because it was on the CD version, but again, I mean, those first 8 tracks, I think it's just one good pop after another, and I think it was sequenced well, and I just think it's a very strong McCartney record as a whole, and that's what we're really trying to get towards is the album as a whole,
As a whole.
uh, and I think this one is really should be top half McCartney.
I
So
agree.
yeah,
Agree on all
yeah.
points, brother. Agree on all
Yeah,
points
so
with you on
12
that
for
one.
me.
12 for you? Okay.
Yeah.
11 for me. We're getting close to that top 10. We're getting close.
Right.
11 for me is going to be a little bit of a left turn. Tom's already talked about it, and some people might see this and go, "Oh my God, that's 11 for you," but it is, and 11 for me is Pipes of Peace. I know I'm making him go crazy right now. This is where we're still gonna go. We're gonna go real different now.
Right. Yeah.
11 for me is Pipes of Peace, and again, this is just the original. Listen, I'm with you on Hey Hey and Tug of Peace. Those songs blow. They're terrible. They're awful. However, songs that you didn't mention early when you ranked it, which I think are awesome, are like Keep Undercover, Average
Mm-hmm.
Person, Sweetest Little Show. To
Peaceful
me,
show.
that's awesome. That's awesome, McCartney. Now, listen, I get it. I love everything about Pipes of Peace. I have since I was a kid when I got it on CD in the '90s. This exact CD. I've loved it. To me, it's got staying power. I can't tell you how many times I listened to The Other Me or The Average Person or Keep Undercover. Those tracks in particular, not to even to mention the title track, which is one of his best of all time.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Pipes of Peace. Okay, the closer, Through Our Love, the classic ballad. Um, yeah, Sweetest Little Show, going into Average Person, how they link up together. The Man, okay, obviously The Man and Say, both with Michael Jackson. Okay, and I'd kind of put those down below. I'd put Say and The Man
Right.
closer to like Hey Hey and Tug of Peace, because everything else, The Other Me, Keep Undercover, so bad. Average Person, Through Our Love, to me, that's top tier McCartney. And I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but I really don't care. I love.
It's our ranking. Yeah, it's our ranking, not theirs. So
I
you know.
absolutely adore Pipes of Peace. I know it's the cheesy pick, but I have to be honest. Like I can't take the critical view and the one that it's one of his lesser albums, so we're gonna just bury it in the bottom half. I can't do that. I have to be honest to how I listen to this record, and I listen to it quite a bit, and I'm proud of my ranking of Pipes of Peace at number 11, and I stand by it.
Okay. No, I dig that. I mean, you got to stay true to yourself. That's what you feel that strongly about it. I'm all for it. And same thing with everybody that their picks.
Yep.
If you feel like one of those lesser, what we would consider a lesser album, if you have like, especially if when it comes to nostalgia, you know, like for Kit, Kit O'Toole, her that's the first McCartney album she ever bought was Pipes of Peace.
Right. So she probably feels a little more closer to it.
Exactly. So and well, it was mainly because of the Michael Jackson factor, but she's come to love the album over
Right.
time, anyways. So okay, so what was that? That was 11. So my
11.
11, yeah, my 11 is we're gonna go through this later period, the second half, this reemergence of McCartney,
There you go.
where we kind of mentioned this before, where there's people out there that feel that his days are past him now. I mean, he can't do anything good anymore, right? He hasn't done anything good since Tug of War, right?
Oh
He hasn't
God.
done anything good since Flaming Pie. I really feel bad for those people, and I
Well, they
really
don't know what
wish.
they're missing.
Well, right. I just really wish that they would go back and listen to an album like My 11, Memory Almost Full. I mean, you've talked about it already, but and everything you said, is spot on. I mean, there's just stuff on here for this, how you said he was like 64 at the time to do
Yeah.
an album like this, which is more, kind of more current sounding, but also retro sounding at the same time, kind of combining, the new styles of music and retro styles of
Yep.
music all combined,
All in
and just
one. Yeah.
making it a unique listening experience. Obviously that EQ thing that we talk about. I remember I having this album on and then blasting it, and then when See Your Sunshine comes on, and then it goes doo doo doo, and it's just
It's
it's like
it's
the
it,
speakers
it,
just pop.
you're
It's
like
like,
you're like this. You're
like,
like
like ah,
ah. Calm down with the doo 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 doo.
yeah, right,
Lower the volume down to 5, engineer, please.
right.
Come on.
But yeah, okay, and that's kind of nitpicking in a way, but this album is fantastic, and it started a string of very
Well,
very
continued one, really.
continued work. I mean, yeah, it's a string of fantastic records that again any musician
Would
band would kill to have
have.
an album as good as these. Now I don't consider Dance Tonight as maybe as good as you do. I think it's just a fine little ditty.
Did he?
But like ever present past, See Your Sunshine, Only Mama Knows. I love Mr. Bellamy. The first the medley, that was me, Vintage Clothes. Feed in the Clouds, I love up until it goes very, 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 very,
Mm.
and then it gets a little cringeworthy. But then, to go into House of Wax, and then, the end of the
House
end.
of Wax. Yeah, my
Yeah,
God.
a fantastic record. He's got his help with the band. On this record. I think this one was the second album David Kahn.
David Kahn came back to
Yeah,
do. Yeah,
came back.
after.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he I think he recorded half of it, did the Chaos project, and then went back and finished
Yes.
Memory Almost Full. But
Because I want to say,
man, what a
Memory was what, May, June of 2007, about.
yeah, I believe, yeah. You'd have to go back and
I remember
the
spring.
date
It was like
thing.
spring of it
Yeah.
was the spring of '07 because I saw him
Hmm.
on that surprise pop-up show. So that
Right.
was all the rage and everybody was into it. And you have it at 11, Tom?
Yeah, I've got it at 11, and just a lot of standout tracks on here, and
Did you buy it
good
at a
stuff.
Starbucks when it came out?
I don't remember. I think I want to say I did. I want to say I did. Yes, and you sent me. Yeah, you gave me one of those. Yeah,
Yeah, it was
and
like
I got
I
it.
took like
Yeah,
20 from the Starbucks
right,
stand back in the
right.
day, which
I
people
You
like
know what?
sell now for big bucks.
Right. Yeah, and I did. I did. As I'm thinking about it, I remember buying it at a Starbucks because I remember it playing in the store. And I remember talking to some of the younger kids that were working there, and this album was on repeat. I mean, it didn't end. I mean, this album was going
Right.
on repeat for probably a couple weeks. Uh, if you worked at Starbucks at the time, let me let us know. Maybe we'll get you on the show and you can talk
Sure.
about
And they'll say, oh, and
it.
they're probably
Yeah.
like 30 years old now. And they're like, God, I
Right.
hated that
Yeah.
album. I had to listen to it for a month
Right.
straight because my boss told me to
Yeah.
play it.
Yeah.
Um,
But I remember picking this up. I was, just started dating, my wife at the time, and playing this, and just having a lot of great memories with this album. And again, strong music. I get with Gratitude. Yeah, never been the biggest fan of Gratitude. But the rest of it, man. I mean, Only Mama Knows. I mean, man,
oh,
they just really pounded on that. Yeah,
oh,
yeah, and I love that orchestration that bookends that
yep.
song. I think that was a really classy idea. And I think
Dun,
like
dun, dun,
Nod
dun.
Your Head
Oh,
probably. Yeah, I really wish Nod Your Head would have been maybe in the middle of the
sequence
album.
and the album with
The
the end of
sequence
the end.
end of the end. Yeah, exactly. Kind of like with Beautiful Night on Flaming Pie.
Yeah,
And but I get it. People like Beautiful Day following that, but
great
it is
day.
what it is. Nitpicking again, but Memory Almost Full at 11. Great stuff, and just started a string. Even really the album before
It
Chaos really
continued.
started that.
That's where
It
it
really
started.
started.
It
Right,
started.
yeah.
It started.
And
And
I'll get to Chaos in a little bit, but the albums that follow, I mean, top notch, McCartney. And if you're
top
one of those
tier.
people that stopped listening to McCartney, shame on you. Go back and listen to those records.
Get your head out of your ass.
Listen, if you're missing Linda backing vocals, I hear you because
Yeah.
I think that's something that's lacking in his recent albums is those backing vocals.
Yes,
But fine. I mean, they're still great albums.
they are. And
Yeah.
we're going to segue to the top 10 now.
Top
As
10.
we get to the top 10, and we're going to kind of stay in this same period as Tom has kind of just talked about Memory Almost Full. My number 10 is the album that preceded that, and that is
Mm.
Chaos and Creation in the Backyard
Wow.
at 10.
Wow. Wow.
At 10 for me, which
Okay.
means you have it higher. Um,
Yeah.
way
You could
higher, I'm
say
sure.
that.
Way high. I'm sure you have it way higher. Listen,
Yeah.
it had to
But go
get in
ahead.
there
Yeah.
somewhere.
Right.
Chaos and Creation in the Backyard. This is the album that started this. I mean,
Yep.
people want to say it started with
Resurgence.
Flaming Pie. It started with
Yeah.
Flaming Pie, or it started with. I Flaming Pie, you have to look at it on its own. You can't, because the Driving Rain was after. To me, it starts with this Renaissance period starts with in 2005 with Chaos and Creation in the Backyard. Why? Because he had a challenge. He had a producer that challenged him in Nigel
Mhm.
Godrich. Okay, and Paul didn't like that. But when Paul is
Right.
challenged, he comes up with his best work. It's not dealing with yes men all the time. He challenged him to come up with good material, and he brings the goods on Chaos and Creation in the Backyard. Every
Mhm.
single song on this album is a song that you don't skip. Okay, maybe there's
Mm.
one or two that I don't play as much, and I listened to
Right.
it not that long ago. The only song I probably will not that fond with would be A Certain Softness,
Mm.
as maybe. But other than that, Fine Line, Home Run, How Kind of You, Home Run, Jenny
Right.
Wren, Home Run, At the Mercy, Friends to Go, English Tea, Too Much Rain,
Yep.
riding the Vanity Fair, Follow Me, Promise to You, Girl, This Never
Right.
Happened Before, and then the instrumental Anyway to close it. That is top tier McCartney. That's 1970s quality writing and music and everything about it. That's why this album, for me, cracks the top 10 where it should be. Again, I Promise to You, Girl. I think we when we ranked the tracks when we did this. I mean, I think
Right.
I had that up there. Just a great album, start to finish. Again, this is what what this is, Tom. This is what I wanted Driving Rain to be, but
Yeah.
wasn't.
Yeah. I get it. Absolutely.
That's what I want. I wanted Driving Rain to be an album like this, and we got Driving Rain. And then this
Right.
came out, and it was like, okay, this is a Paul McCartney record. And
Right.
yeah, I still here we are 15 years later, and it's awesome. And I love Chaos. I'm very curious to see where you have it in your 10. I'm sure it's coming
Right.
up, but yeah,
Like a flower.
it's coming up like a flower, and it was number
Yeah.
10 for me. Chaos and Creation in the Backyard.
Okay. 10 for me. Getting into that top 10. These next 10, even starting with Memory Was Full at 11. I top to bottom. Rarely skip a song. Here and there, but the strength when the songs on these albums are great. I mean, you just can't stop listening to the album. So my number 10, I'm going with the album that followed Memory Almost Full, and that's New. And again, I love it when the follow up album is either as good or better. And I felt like
Yeah,
this progression is now it's just better and better. I mean, I'm and then sometimes I question the fact whether with multiple producers or not, but I mean the stuff on here, I mean, is top notch. I mean, again, there's only really one song on here that I really just I don't care for. But Save Us, great opening track. Alligator, one of my favorites of the later date, second
hmm
half, if you want to call it second half. On My Way to Work is okay. Queenie Eye is great. Early days, nowadays everybody has their own opinion. It's just so
yep,
it's just such a middle finger to all of
writers.
us out there that writers and probably even podcasters. But I dug New. I thought it was a great opening single. I love Everybody Out There. I Can Bet. And I again the bonus tracks too that you got on the CD I thought were strong. And then when you got that deluxe version, that had Demon Dance and
Eamon's Dance. That's the one I couldn't think
Demon
of.
Dance, yeah, and there's the other one on there too that I'm drawing a blank on now.
Hell
But
to Pay.
Hell to Pay, great, great tracks that
Written about probably a
yeah,
very
well,
recently ex-wife.
right. But again, musicianship is I think is top notch on this album. The producers that he worked with, you mentioned earlier, I think brought something to the table and helped McCartney continue this new sound
A new
and
sound, but still kind of keep
retro
retro.
and
Yeah.
bringing in some of those old tricks that have always are highlights of McCartney records. But again, lyrically, I think he's continuing to be strong lyrically, and yeah, I think New should be a contender for the top 10 in anybody's top 10.
don't disagree at all.
Yeah.
Um,
So there you go.
number nine. Number nine.
Yeah.
For me, okay, we're gonna start. We're at the beginning of, if you want to call it that period, which some people do. It had to be in there for me. Flaming Pie at number
Mm.
9.
Wow.
Yeah, Flaming Pie is number 9. Tom's like, what albums does he have in his top 4 or 5?
No, I'm pitching. I'm starting to picture them in my mind now. You know.
Yeah, the Flaming Pie at number 9. Again, nostalgia. Nostalgia. I was 16 when this album came out, so to me, it's as good as any Beatle record. It's just what it is because it came out of the anthology. A couple again. It's 14 tracks. Would have been probably one of the best albums of all time if 3 had come off, and that would be
Yeah.
the ones I'm not really, which really love you, used to be
Right.
bad, and
Yeah.
if you wanna. If those 3
Right.
come off, this album for me, and you've got 11 tracks, then songs we were singing, World Tonight, Some Days, Young Boy, Calico Skies, Flaming Pie,
Right.
Heaven on a Sunday, Souvenir, Little Willow, Beautiful Night, and Great Day. That's a Beatle record. That's a Beatle record
Yeah.
to me.
Right. In a way, I've always kind of felt that it was like a little like it was a later day kind of London townish record because you've got a lot of acoustic stuff, you know what I mean, going on in this record. A couple rockers, but it's more of a
Low
lighter
key.
side of low key,
Never looked at it that way, Tom. That's a good way to look at it. Look at it like
and even
another
if,
London town.
right. I mean, even if like say like if like when winter comes was on that record, it was been like another
Right.
acoustic lighter side song. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, but again, everything about it is just classic McCartney. The songs we were singing, great opener, and he's embracing this. He's embracing the nostalgia, which is what
Right.
radiates through the whole theme of the record. We talk
Right.
about it. He's embracing the nostalgia. There's that theme is consistent throughout the whole record.
And we got the anthology to thank for that.
And we do. And we have the anthology thing. And thank God he rescued Beautiful Night and put it out and put it on here because that's probably top 10 songs of all time. That's in there for me. Beautiful Night.
Right.
Absolutely. The 86 version or the 97 version.
Mm.
Yeah, again, kind of like Kit, kind of like you with Flowers and buying your first single. This was, again, I was in high school, so this album means a lot to me even all these years later. So it's other than being really good. I mean, it's not like it's there, and it's I would have loved to have put it higher, but I have to rank it where I rank it. It's top 10. It's number 9,
Right.
and it will be special to my heart always. And that's why it is. It's to me, it's classic McCartney. It's as good as anything he did in the 70s.
All right, cool. No, I like it. Yeah, absolutely. 9 for me. I just made a switch.
That's not allowed. That's cheating.
I know, but it's our show. We can do what we want.
True.
Because of the way you talked about the 2 albums, or you've already talked about these 2 albums, which are going to come next, and I just switched them. Because I just thinking about it and looking at those albums, I'm like, yeah, maybe that one is better. But number 9, where are we at? 9 for me.
9 for you.
Yeah.
Yep.
9 for me is I still believe that this is going to go down as one of his great later day records, and that's McCartney 3. I
Okay.
really believe this. This is 10, 15, 20 years from now, people are going to go back to this and say this could be a top 10 record in McCartney's canon, and it is for me. Find My Way, like you said, Pretty Boys, Lavatory Lil. I do really like Deep Deep Feeling. Again, that challenge. You're challenging your fan base, and I've always liked that about Paul.
He does.
Sliding, Kiss of Venus. Such a strong. I mean, the falsetto on that. I mean, who would have thought that? At 78, that you could still do such a strong falsetto. And he does. And I know you love Seize the Day. Deep Down for me might be the only kind of clunker, but I still sing along to it. Because I just love.
Get deep down.
Yeah. And too bad he didn't have the real horns on here because it does sound like synth horns. Yeah, exactly. So I really think that this is, a great, later day McCartney record that should get recognized as being one of the better ones. And really kind of curious to see, because we think that High in the Clouds soundtrack will probably follow this as the next McCartney record. That's
Yeah,
what
I mean,
I'm
well,
just assuming. And but this was, just putting when winter comes on and to close the album with that from a song from what I think was 92 or 93.
92.
Yeah, when he recorded it. Wow, just wow.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I think this is a fantastic record. I
Maybe
really
with
do.
time, and if that ends up being his last album, maybe I'll give it. Maybe it'll change for me.
Yeah.
I hope it
Right,
does. I really do. It's just
right.
it's so hard to keep track of. To me, it was just a little bit of a drop off after Egypt
Mm,
Station. To me, and I love your enthusiasm for it. I think maybe tonight I'll listen to it again because you have it in your top 10,
right.
and maybe we'll see how I feel. I've gone this
Hmm.
way, that way with it, so we'll see.
Right.
All right, we're getting down. Let's go to number 8 for me. Okay, going back to Wings,
All
and
right.
we're going back to Wings, and we're going back to the Swan Song, back to the Egg,
Ah, okay.
back to the Egg at numero 8 for me. Probably an album I would have had outside the top 10, but since joining Two Legs and getting to talk to Lawrence Juber multiple times and meeting him in person,
Right.
I've really, really gained. I mean, I always loved it anyway, but having joined you on this show and getting to speak with him virtually and in person, and knowing what went into this album and what kind of a musician he is, and this period which people just look at it as the last Wings album, which doesn't really result in anything. We learned by interviewing him that this was such a fruitful period for the band. He joined in '78, and the band, this version of Wings, worked well through 1980. So it was
Right.
78, 79, 80, and they did a tour together. So
Right.
the Back to the Egg period, yeah, it was just, people look at it as Wings' last album, and it did number 8, and it was crappy. Not the case. This
Right.
album kicks ass from start to finish. You've got all the typical kind of McCartney songs on here that make McCartney McCartney. You've got the ballads, you've got the rockers,
Right.
you've got the interesting, you've got the spoken word, you've got everything on here. You've got the traditional stuff with Baby's Request. You've got the rocker with Getting Closer. Again, it's a concept album, right? So it's got the whole kind of opening, reception into Getting Closer, and We're Open Tonight. All that in here, spinning on. The only song I'm not crazy about on the whole record is Denny's song, again and again and again and again. I think it's just too
Mm,
long. It's the only one I'm
right.
not. It's the only one I'm not. It's listenable. I won't skip
Right.
it, but man, Back to the Egg from start to finish is awesome, and I always enjoyed it. But after getting to work with LJ and talk to him, Winter Rose, Love Awake, beautiful. After the Ball, Million Miles. Paul doing that thing where he takes 2 songs and 2 ideas and makes 1 song out of
Right.
it. He does
Yep.
that beautifully on here. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, Old Siam, Sir, awesome rocker. Okay, then you get the kind of the single that wasn't, which I call Arrow Through Me. You know, no
But it was
drums,
a single. All
Arrow
Through
Through
Me
Me.
was a
Oh,
single.
right, it
Yeah.
was right. Yeah, I always forget. It just didn't do as well as it should
It
have.
just didn't do as well as it should have.
Right. So the single that was, but should have been better.
It should have been. Yeah. I think the right way to say is the top 10 hit that never was.
That's what I was trying to say. Thank you,
Right.
brother. Rockster Theme, which I know you're not big on Rockster Theme. I know you don't like that song. I absolutely adore it. It won a Grammy. I love. You got
Yeah.
everybody on there. You got the Ted Townsend and all these other people on that session too. Gary Brooker as well.
Right.
Um, of course, out of that same session, they did "So Glad to See You Here." Again, that book ends the album with the whole "We're Open Tonight" theme at the end, giving that.
Right.
How does the album work as a whole? And I think it works as a whole brilliantly. Probably as good as again thematically as Band on the Run and Venus and Mars. So is Back to the Egg in terms of, do they form a concept from start to finish? And I think Band on the Run, Venus and Mars, and Back to the Egg do those things well. And Back to
Right.
the Egg kicks ass. And
Mhm.
Yeah, again, wait till the archive, baby. When this comes back to back with London Town,
Oh yeah.
forget it. So yeah, love Back to the Egg, and that's my
Again,
number 8.
right. And again, that's an album that I'm seeing more and more people have love for or showing more appreciation for, and I think that's great. And I'm gonna be doing that here a little bit as well.
Of course
So
you are. Number
yeah,
8 for you, buddy.
number 8 for me. I can't I can't talk highly enough of this record. I really can't, and it is, after looking at it and making that change real quick, it really is my second favorite later day McCartney record, and that's 2018's Egypt Station,
There you go.
and yeah. And where it's strong, it is super strong. I mean, Dominoes. I mean, one of his best, later day songs. You know, Confidant, I think is great. Who
Oh,
Cares, I think is great. Happy with You again. Just I love his honesty in that song. I mean, if it is indeed him he's singing about, you know, I applaud him for that, and say, look, yeah, I used to go out, I used to get stoned, but now I'm finally happy with myself, and I think that's great. I love the medley at the end. I think it's one of the strong points of the album. But again, back in Brazil, songs that people really shit on, like "For You" and "Back to Brazil." I dig the hell out of those songs.
yes.
You know, and then when you got the Target edition, you got Get Started and Nothing for Free.
Nothing for free.
Uh,
That's the 2.
yeah,
Right.
I would say, yeah, great tracks, and and then we got those bonus songs. Get Enough. On New
Frank
Year's.
Sinatra's Party.
Yeah. We got that. We got 62nd Street, was that and
62nd
then we got
Street.
yeah, and then now we got In a Hurry, and Home Tonight,
And
right?
Home
And
Tonight. I mean, think about
great
that.
tracks. Yeah.
Taking you
So
home. Yeah, all that.
right. So these sessions just produce
So productive.
so it's very, very productive. And again, the producer that he's working with on these tracks, again, very, very current, but then also mixing in retro sounds as well. Which I can't talk highly enough of. So yeah, Egypt Station. I'm just like, yeah, I think I made the right choice by making that
You
late switch.
swapped them. You
Number 8,
swapped
yeah,
3 and
I
that. And
swapped
I
them.
think
Yeah,
I think it was a
yeah,
wise decision because I know you
yeah.
love both of them. I know you
Right,
do.
right.
Okay.
All right.
Number 7 for me, an album Tom had about 4 or 5 albums ago, I think.
Right.
More sentimental of a pick for me, and that's Flowers in the Dirt
Hmm.
at number
Good. Yeah.
7. The only thing that Tom and I differ on is Tom thinks the album peters out a little bit. I don't. I enjoy That Day Is. I adore That Day Is Done, and I really like How Many People, and I like Motor of Love. But it's McCartney doing that adult
Mm,
contemporary, which he doesn't do well. But again, in the context of the album, I like it. Motor of Love. I think it works conceptually, and on
right.
I wouldn't listen. I wouldn't take the CD out or take my phone out and go listen to Motor of Love. But if I'm listening to the album start to finish, it works. And on
Mm,
those terms, I like it. The only track I'm really not too keen on the whole Flowers is "Don't Be Careless, Love." I don't like that. I like the demo version with Elvis better. But everything, and I think the what ended up being the single version of Figure of Eight with that killer solo, that what's his face does, Robbie McIntosh does. Works better than the studio version of Figure of Eight. The
okay.
single version is way better.
Right.
But My
Right.
Brave Face, that's a Beatles song. That's a
Right.
Beatles song.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
so everything about this album again. This was very I was 8 when this came out, so this was my first getting this album and like, wow, this is a brand new album. This is this and kind of Cloud Nine are in the same period for me as a young kid, as a very very young
Right.
kid when this came out.
Right.
But We Got Married, Put It There, Figure of Eight. This one, yeah, Distractions. you want her to Rough Ride, even though it's a little bit of it's a change of pace track. But
Yeah,
everything
it is.
about it's a change of pace track, Rough Ride, after the bounciness and optimism of My Brave Face, and you're like, wow, this is
Right.
great. And I remember you talking about how when the video was on, you watched it. If the song was on,
Right.
you were glued in, and it's like it's an instant hit. My Brave Face. It's it's one of those songs that you almost wish he could revisit. He played it live in '89, '90, but it's such an
Right.
important song that opened that kind of guy gave him his shot in the arm back that he needed. So that's
Right.
an important song because it was the one he wrote with Elvis. It was the hit. You would think that would come back and work its way back into his set list somehow.
That would be such a welcome to the set list.
Could you
My Brave
imagine if he
Face.
played My Brave Face?
People would lose their shit if if song 4, 5, 6, or 7, and all of a sudden he's just going my
I put it this
brave.
way: if My Brave Face worked it into the set list, okay, somehow, and I didn't already have tickets, I would get a credit card and max it out to get front row seats to see him play that song. I would.
Right. Yeah,
I would do
I
that.
believe you. I believe you.
And I think you would too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, Flowers for me is easily top 10 McCartney album, and there it shall sit at number
Okay.
7.
Number 7. Okay. Now my number 7 is an album that I think kind of gets buried. It's a great album, and I see a lot of people talk very highly of it. But sometimes I think it gets buried in the mix, because it's sandwiched in between two number ones, two number one albums, and also a number one live album as well. And then when we also know that the number one hit song from it was not on the Wings' greatest. So in a way, I think it kind of sometimes gets buried. And my number 7 is Venus and Mars, which I think is just a great follow up to Band on the Run. There was a great single, the year before, '74 for Junior's Farm. But the follow up singles didn't do as well with after listen to what the man said. So I kind of think it loses a little steam. But the songs that they played live, from this album are just again just takes them over the edge. I mean, opening that tour, Venus and Mars and Rock Show. I mean, just seeing Joe English and they're just wailing on the drums during Rock Show. I mean, it's great. I mean, Love and Song. You gave me the anthem. Magneto and Titanium Man is a song I've always loved from the get go. Letting Go is really good. I love Spirits of Ancient Egypt. The two songs that the Jimmy and Denny song. I think are very stellar tracks that with them on lead vocals. Call Me Back Again. I mean, listen to what the man said and Treat Her Gently. I mean, every song I think is just a top notch. McCartney and the band is tight.
Cooking.
Yeah, they're cooking absolutely. Joe comes in to replace Jeff, and Jimmy is just killer on this record. Killer on this record. And you really don't, hear the love for Jimmy's guitar playing. Whenever you see those top 20, top 30 greatest guitarists of all time,
Oh yeah.
it would be, he's so missing out. I mean,
he's never on it. He's never on it.
He's never on it. And he definitely deserves to be on it, especially the work from McGear, onto London Town.
Good productive period there.
Good production period. So I kind of feel in a way sometimes this album kind of gets a little lost in the shuffle, just because you had that greatness of Band on the Run.
Yeah, and the shadow of Band on the Run, and then the
tour, the tour, and then the bigness of Silly Love Songs. Being number one for what I think 7 or 8 weeks or something like that, and then Let 'Em In being a big massive hit as well. So I think sometimes it get lost in the shuffle, but 7 is Venus and Mars, it cooks. It really cooks.
It's a great album, and it's funny if you listen to his interview with Gambaccini, Oh no,
Mm-hmm.
not Gammaccini. Vic Garbarini. I'm sorry, Vic Garbarini from the
Garbarino.
McCartney
Yeah.
interview.
Garbarini. Yeah. Garbarini.
He gets asked about Venus and Mars, and he was like, "It's an album." And in 1980, he was reflecting on it, saying, "That's an album I just hated. I didn't really like it." But then
Yeah.
I was talking to he said I was talking to a music professor from a college in America, and he was telling me they were playing it in the room, and he loved it. And then that changed his opinion on the album, saying, "Oh,
Right.
I actually do like it." But see, it's funny. He gets down on certain periods of his work.
Right, and then someone will just come up to him and say, "Hey, I love this album." And then he just switches his opinions. I mean, I think that kind of thing motivates him sometimes. I think he does care what people thinks about his
Of
music.
course he does, and Venus and Mars was one of them. But
Right,
I'm with you, brother. It's safely in my top 10 too, and I'll get to it in a
mm,
few.
right,
But for my number 6, we're gonna go right kind of the album right before that, and we're gonna go to the
yeah,
classic, Band on the Run at 6. Um, Tom's got it there. Is it 6 for
yeah,
you too?
yeah. My six as well. Yeah,
So there we synced up again one more time. Band on the Run is 6. Listen, not much to be said. It's the album for which he will be best remembered when that
right,
day comes.
absolutely. Yep, yep,
When they start writing those articles, they're going to say his biggest success was Band on the Run, and see that's why I admire the path he took to make it again after the Beatles. He started slow with McCartney.
hmm,
People wanted this in 1970. He wasn't there.
right,
He wasn't
right,
there. He couldn't do this in 1970. He had to go through his own process and dealing with the breakup and get over it and do it his own way. People wanted this in 1969, 1970. It wasn't happening. He had to get
right.
the confidence back to get to this point, and it took
A
him to
good
the
point.
latter.
Yeah,
They wanted it, and listen. And if you look at the 4 of them, all 3 of them beat him out of the gate with success. Ringo did, John did, George did, and then there was just Paul going, "Well, I'll get there eventually." And then eventually, Band on the Run came out, and he just knocked all 3 of them over the head and said, "I'm going to leave you all in the dust now, because I just did this."
right.
And I prefer the UK version versus the US. I like the omission. I like not having Hell on Wheels on the album. I think, but I didn't learn the album now. I learned obviously the
Right,
US version first,
right,
but
right.
then not knowing that the UK version omitted that. I'm holding the 25th up here, which actually does have Hell on Wheels on it. Um,
Yep. Yeah.
I think it sticks out like a sore thumb now, and I don't like the album with Hell on Wheels on it. I don't. I
Hmm.
like the 9 tracks as they are, with Band on the Run, Jet, obviously great. What's about a great opener, 1-2 punch with Band on the Run and Jet. First 2
Oh,
tracks, boom,
absolutely. Yeah.
boom, right, it hits you right in the mouth.
Yep.
Bluebird, Vanderbilt, Let Me Roll It, which I'm not looking forward to hearing. That's one song I'll skip, play it or skip it. I'm skipping that. Mamunia, I love Mamunia. I don't think Tom you do.
Yeah.
I absolutely love Mamunia. Opens up side 2. I think that track and the little synth work that goes on at the end of it is absolutely tremendous.
Hmm.
Love it. Picasso's last words. Okay, obviously written about his experience with Dustin Hoffman, coming up on the spot with the song. Again, shades of Abbey Road going on in there with kind of the reprisal of Jet, which you hear there,
Right.
and Mrs. Vanderbilt, and then closing it with one of the all-time best songs, which you got to hear, which I will too. 1985.
Yep.
What again? Book ending the album proper, in true Abbey Road type fashion, which is done here with this record. And yeah, it has to be in the top 10 somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And
No. Agreed. I mean,
and you can go on
nobody
to why
would.
you have it at 6.
Yeah. I mean, everybody would look at it. I mean, if this was like in like say 17, 18, 19, people would look at us and like, are you? Well, I mean, yeah, are you stupid or what? Yeah. I mean, yeah, it has its fatigue moments on this album, but you cannot deny its greatness and its importance in
No,
in his solo career. I mean, this is the album that made him. Yeah, Red Rose Speedway was successful. Yes, it was number 1. Yes, My Love was number 1. Live and Let Die was number 2. It should have been number 1. But this album, just propelled him to superstardom once again. Where he was back in 68, 69. I mean,
yep,
he is now the man again, and this album proves that. Like you said, Band on the Run the song went to number 1. Jet, I think that was number 3. I think this was the closest that he came to having 2 number 1s on an album here in the US. I think it was Pipes of Peace in the UK was his closest to having 2 number ones
Yes.
there. But again, I don't, as great as this is, I don't think it's a perfect record. Where it's great, it's great. Yes, Band on the Run, fantastic. Yes, great song. Jet, yes, absolutely fantastic song. 1985, yes, superb closer. I mean, you can't close an album better than this. You
No.
know, fantastic. However, it is kind of like a little bit in the middle where I kind of get a little worn out on, a little tired of. Never been the biggest fan of Pneumonia. Let Me Roll It is just dead in the water for me. I don't care if I ever hear that song again.
No.
Okay.
You can't.
I'm one of those people that love No Words. I adore
Oh,
that,
how could I
that
leave out No
song.
Words? Christ, that's one
Right.
of the best songs on the
Yeah.
whole album.
Right. I understand the direction of that, towards the middle half of Picasso's last words. I get it. Okay. I just don't enjoy it.
Oh, you don't like that?
No, never been the
Oh.
biggest fan of the
Oh, it's like
that whole
going
bit.
back to the
Yeah.
reprisal.
Yeah.
I like all that.
Yeah.
That's okay.
And Bluebird. I mean, it's a nice song. That's made better by Howie Casey's sax work on there, but
Yeah,
again, I don't consider it top tier
top tier.
McCartney.
So yeah, like
McCartney.
middle of the album is where it's a little
Yeah,
bit dead for you.
right, right. And Mrs. Vanderbilt, a fun song, but I don't consider it again top tier McCartney. Now, yes, I do prefer. I will always prefer the original version, the way the artist wants it, over to what the record studio wants. If the studio puts on, Hell on Wheels, then whatever, fine. And I don't mind it on there, but I do like it with the 9 tracks and number 6, and on the Run.
Yes, number 6 for both of us. No Words.
Yeah.
The first song that Paul and Denny wrote together.
Right.
God, that is the underrated gem of all and Wings.
I think
material.
so. I really think so. Even though it's Denny with the main lead vocals, but Paul is really you hear Paul throughout that whole song. You hear Linda throughout that whole song.
That's it.
Yeah. I love that ending little guitar solo. I love that. You're burning love, sweet burning love, and then he really just goes high with that.
And if you haven't heard the live version from Glasgow, go listen to that.
Right.
The live version of No Words is to die for.
Yeah. Yep. All right.
Wait,
top 5, baby.
Top 5 time. Okay.
Yep.
And we're staying with Wings and the successor. Tom had it just before. Venus and Mars are all right tonight.
All right.
For sure. I like it better than Man on the Run. I do. For all the reasons you mentioned, brother. This is the one Wings album, believe it or not, even though I have 2 more to talk about, I probably play this one the most. Honestly, still on a consistent basis. I just don't get tired of this record. Everything about it, again, thematic. I talked about it with Back to the Egg a little bit. It's the same thing. From the artwork, the design, the production, the music on it. Venus and Mars, rock show, Lovin' Song, one of the best songs of all time. Which was the B-side. It was the B-side to Listen to What the Man Said. And again, I'm a sucker for all that schmaltzy stuff. So give me 3. You gave me the answers. The songs I'm not as keen on are the ones with Medicine Jar and Spirits of Ancient Egypt. Not as keen on those tracks. I don't like when Paul shares the stage. I want Paul for myself.
Paul all the time, right?
I don't need anybody else singing the songs on the album. Spirits of Ancient Egypt works better though live on Wings Over America. Medicine Jar is okay, but Letting Go. I love the Venus and Mars reprise, which it took me for a while to read the lyrics, what he was actually talking about, which is what I learned in the UK. When you look at the words, that's whole Starship 21ZNA9. I never knew but now I know what he meant. If you listen to him when he says Z, they don't say Z in the UK. They say Z. So when you listen to this Starship 21ZNA9, that's what he's saying. Then I understood it. So that's just a little thing I picked up with that song, that I love. But Treat Her Gently, Lonely. What an album closer. Now it doesn't close the album. Crossroads does, but again, awesome closer. Think about these songs that close the album. 1985, Treat Her Gently. the backseat of my car. For me, the medley on Red Rose Speedway. You're ending these albums with what like
Right.
the best of the best of the best. And again, this album was made for a live show, and it
Mhm.
was when you listen to it with those strands waiting for the show. It was done. And he was saying, "We're back. I'm on
Right.
top of the world. It's my turn now to shine. Everybody, look out!" And that's
Right.
the confidence that he has now at this point in the band after the success, the hugeness of Band on the Run. Then this
Mhm.
too, he was ready to take the world on, man. And that's
He did.
the music and the confidence is oozing out of this record, and that's why it is number 5.
Mm. Okay. My number 5. One of the albums that I've consistently have gone back to, year after year, decade after decade. I always go back to the songs I was singing,
There you go.
and so a lot of those songs were from Flaming Pie. And again, remember when this came out like it was yesterday, and the excitement factor about this record. And I mean, yeah, I think with Linda not in good health, and then the
Mm.
kind of the tone of some of the record, but um, uh, the coming off the heels of the Beatles
Anthology.
anthology and having such a strong record was I think it was very important to him. But this was just it's a fantastic record from top to bottom. Even like the songs we were singing, not my favorite, but I still enjoy it. The World Tonight, again, not my favorite, but I still enjoy it. But man, like some days, Winter, Young Boy, Calico Skies, Flaming Pie, Heaven on a Sunday, Souvenir, Little Willow, Beautiful Night, Great Day. It just continues and goes on and on and on. I mean, yeah, there's those little parts in there. I mean, if you wanna, I
Ugh,
not the biggest fan of it, but I really enjoy Steve Miller's guitar playing on it. I think he
yeah.
did some really good guitar playing on that. Really Love You. Yeah, it's probably the clunker on the album, but then again, Jeff Lynne, Ringo Starr, and Paul McCartney. Here's some three greats, and
Again, this is the Steve
what did you
Gadd
come
thing.
up
Well, this
with?
is
Yeah,
the Steve Gadd
yeah,
thing. Let's put these
right.
crazy talented people in the room, and this is
Right.
what we're going to
And
come
the
up with.
anger, and
Really?
the angry. I mean, this is a continuing theme with him. Angry. Hey, hey.
Townsend, yeah. Let's put these
And
great
really,
let's put all
right,
these great
right,
people together in a room, and this is the shit we're going to come out with.
right.
Come on.
But Flaming Pie is just, I mean, lyrically, again, was an album that I think I enjoy this album more lyrically. Even though
Then
musically it's fantastic, but lyrically, this was it for me. I am a ballad junkie,
oh
and some days, I mean, some days I look at you with eyes that shine right off the bat. Fantastic. It was written that I would love you, from the moment I opened my eyes. Again, starts off fantastic, peaceful like heaven on a Sunday, wishful, not thinking what to do. I mean, these songs just really, and Souvenir, when you're fed up, shedding too many tears, kind of like, in a way, this one is almost kind of like, always somebody that cares,
yep.
too much rain, kind of like in that vein a little bit, but man, so powerful. And then you go to beautiful Little Willow, and if you've never gotten emotional listening to that song, and especially watching that video, and then
Yep.
knowing that why he wrote this song, you know, uh, if you don't get emotional, then you're not human, you know.
You're not.
And then yeah, and then and to end it with Beautiful Night and Great Day. This album is top notch, from start to finish. I mean, yeah, I have a few little nitpicking on it, but it's just an album that I've enjoyed listening to over and over and over again throughout the decades, and I'm sure in the coming decades I'll still be listening to this album very fondly, and mwah, beautiful,
There you go.
beautiful record. Number 5,
Excellent,
Flaming
brother.
Pie.
Good analysis. Number 4. Okay, we're getting to the heavy hitters now. These are the heavy
Yeah,
hitters, and every one of these are worthy and could almost be interchangeable. But number 4 for me, Tug of War.
Mm,
At Tug of War at 4. Boy, we just you too.
no.
Okay, we matched up another time. We just
Yep.
did about a month or so ago, or two now.
Right.
We did a 40th anniversary episode
Right.
show on Tug of War being 40 years
One.
old now, which is crazy. I think it was April we did it, right?
Yep. Yep. With
Um,
Mitch Axelrod.
with Mitch Axelrod. It's the gift that keeps on giving. This album is emotional with a capital E.
Mhm.
Songwriting, musicianship on it, one or two clunkers, which there are, one or two
Right.
clunkers, but the best of the best that is Paul McCartney as a writer,
Right.
as a human
Hmm.
being, as a compassionate person,
Right. Right.
as everything.
That's a good.
It's
That's a good word. Compassionate too. That's a great way to describe him as well. Very compassionate. Go ahead.
And that's why this record it holds a spot in my heart because it's evident. Okay, it's evident that it's the first album after John's passing, so the
Right.
emotional factor was going to be off the charts. But he still had a good time making it. Okay, with a huge hit with "Take It Away," which really is it's probably the best song on the whole album. And
Mm.
It's Tom's favorite of all time. "Take It Away." I mean, it has everything in here. It has the ballads, it has the jams that Paul
Right.
does. He gets people in a room, Carl Perkins, Stevie Wonder, and they jam. Sometimes it works out great. Sometimes it doesn't work out so great.
Right.
I'm not a big fan of what's that you're doing. It's okay in the
Right.
context of the album. It runs on a little bit too long. I wouldn't have put it as the fourth track on the album. Um,
Right.
Ebony and Ivory worked out much better, a lot of people think that shouldn't have made it. I absolutely adore Ebony and Ivory. I don't get tired of it, but talk about a 1-2 punch emotionally with "Take It Away." A Tug of War is the opener,
Right.
and the production. And I know you're not keen on the pushing and the pulling, but you don't get a better lyric than "In years to come they may discover what
Oh
the air
no.
we breathe and we live about, but it won't be too
No.
at least too soon enough for me." You don't get a better
Right.
lyric than that. That's it.
No. You don't. Right. Right.
Somebody
Agreed.
Who Cares,
Agreed.
which is one of your
Right.
favorite, which is
Yeah.
just yeah, awesome. Again, caring, compassionate. Those are the
Hmm.
themes that are on here. Pound is sinking. Great vocals on Pound is sinking. That whole "oh no, it didn't happen. Oh, and
Right.
only in a minute."
Right.
You're not going to
Right.
hear that. That's Paul
Right.
doing his "Oh darling Abbey Road" voice on that.
Right.
And I don't think you ever heard him again scream that loud on a record. Wanderlust. What, what can we say? We could do a whole show on Wanderlust for God's sake. Um,
Right.
the lesser known stuff, get it, be what you see, not great. But "Dress Me Up as a Robber." I think Tom calls that the Bee Gees, the Lost Bee Gees song. "Dress Me Up
Right.
as a Robber." Vocally, I love where it goes with that track. Everything again, the artwork, some Venus and Mars, Tug of War. This is artwork, man. This is album
Yeah.
artwork. I mean, I love it so much that it's like it's my wall. If my phone's unlocked and I go to unlock my phone, it's
Right.
the artwork that's on my phone. See,
Yeah.
that's how much I love this record.
That's awesome.
Um, yeah, I absolutely love Tug of War. I always will. I have from the minute I heard it. And it will always hold a special place in my heart for the music that's on.
Right.
And again, Paul has a great time, ballroom dancing. So it's not all down. There's plenty of up moments on this record, ballroom
Right.
dancing and "Take It Away" and stuff like that. And of course, Ebony and Ivory. But you know what the end game in here with this record is, and it is awesome, and it belongs
Right.
in everybody's top 5.
Absolutely agreed, and that's why it's my number 4 as well. I mean, a lot of reasons why you said Tug of War. Yeah, I don't like the pushing and pulling, but you know what? The song as a whole, kind of overshadows that. I mean, I don't like that part, but the song as a whole is fantastic. Take it away, the story, of that song. I mean, the production of that song, having George Martin. We talked about pushing McCartney, and I really think George Martin really pushed McCartney on this record to come up with the goods. No,
Yeah,
that's not no, that one's not solid enough. Let's maybe you can change the lyric here on this one. Do better on this track. And not many people can say they can do that with McCartney, and George Martin is one of those
he
people.
can.
Yes, somebody who cares is fantastic. Yeah, I can dig what's that you're doing from time to time, but being over 6 minutes, I think is kind of a little
Yeah,
too much.
too
You
much.
know, yeah, Here Today, again, he's still doing this song live. I mean, it's another one that I could take or miss. I mean, once in a
Yep.
while, if I'm listening to the album as a whole, sometimes I'll skip it, sometimes I won't, just because we hear it so much. Ballroom dancing, excellent. Pound is sinking again. Taking two or more songs and adding it together. Wanderlust, I think, is top notch. McCartney, some of the greatest stuff he's ever done. So just about everything on here is a winner. Except for Get It, I think for me is probably the weakest
Yeah.
track. On here, like I said when we were doing that show with Mitch. Um, Ebony Ivory. Again, you mentioned that word compassionate. I mean, it's a compassionate song too. It's you know something that we shouldn't have to be doing. Still, in a way, we should be more unity in the world. I mean, I guess
We're talking about a song that's 40
right,
years old. That is still a
right.
problem.
Right. Yeah. So, but it's very powerful. I think it would have been cool if it was like a standalone single. It's its own single, and then maybe he had something that he
On its
had like
own.
on its own. But you know what? It's still great. I think it's a great album closer. It has its people are kind of tired of it. I know it's not up there in people's minds as great McCartney, but it's still good McCartney, and that's better than other people's best. you know. But
Absolutely.
but hey, number one, for multiple weeks.
Yeah,
What can
man.
you say? Number four.
That's number 4. Going to
Yeah.
number 3, top
Yep.
3. We're gonna go to 1971. Ram.
Mm.
at,
All
number,
right.
at number 3, which
Yeah.
I don't think you have at 3. Well, maybe we'll see if it's 1 or 2 for you. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I really kind of rocked back and forth. Now, again, it's the album to love. Everybody loves it, but it was
Oh yeah.
obviously,
Yeah.
Ram's great. Ram's great. Listen, people. Ram was always great. Get on the train.
It was always great. Yeah.
Get on the train, okay? It was always great. Um, Listen, thankfully, 10 years ago, which is still, I can't believe it was 10 years ago. We got the archive edition of Ram
Right.
10 years ago. That's ridiculous. What can you say about it? This is Paul still working through, coming out of the Beatle thing, wanting to get a little bit more professional. If you watch the Wingspan documentary, he says, "Oh, it was more professional." They went to New York to work on this. Is when
Right.
he finally met. He met up Denny Sywell and got him in here, and got David Spinoza and Hugh McCracken on these
Good
sessions,
second. Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
to be a part of the band, the group that he worked with to make this record. Um, to me, I could listen to Ram every day of the week. It does not get tired of it. Everything about it. Too many people, 3 legs. Dear Boy, the harmonies, on
Oh, he did
on
it.
the whole record. I know Paul's. If you look in the '89 tour book, he says that Elton John was really impressed with the harmonies on this, and because he's like he
Mm-hmm.
really worked Linda to really kind of work on her harmonies, and
Right.
it's the early Wings sound is what you're hearing here with Dear Boy and
Absolutely.
certain
Yep.
things. I mean, the kitchen sink. You're getting the whole kitchen sink with this record on a track like Monkberry Moon Delight, which has everything
Right.
in it, which means nothing, but is still awesome at the
Right.
same time.
It's the
You know,
Seinfeld of the album.
it is. It's
It's a
everything.
song about nothing.
It's a song about nothing. Obviously, the
Right.
big mega hit with Uncle Albert, which
Right.
you've made an impact in somebody's life if you even get John Lennon to start singing Uncle Albert, which he did. There's great audio of John and singing "Hands Across the Water," which is hysterical. Um, Obviously the wounds were still fresh here with the Beatles. With the artwork, like everything
Yeah.
going on, and Paul
Yeah.
biting back a little bit. But probably my favorite song on the whole record is "Eat It Home." The Buddy Holly, I love "Eat It Home." I mean, it's hard to pick. It's like picking a favorite kid.
Yeah.
The backseat of my car. Production goes back to the Let It Be days.
Right.
Big grand. Again, the finishes on these records are phenomenal. Long-haired lady, which may run a little too long, a little
Right.
bit, but slightly, but
Right.
still is great. Smile Away, awesome rocker. Heart of the Country, awesome. Everything about the record is phenomenal. It's that indie thing, and I love that everybody loves it now, but it always was great, people. And
It was
you
always
people,
great.
you
Yeah.
people listening and watching know that, okay? And I hope This is the record that I know younger people will go to grab, and they should, because it is balls to the walls, awesome rocking,
Right.
and Paul just letting loose, and that's why Ram is number 3.
Very good. Very good. My number 3 has just jumps. I mean, it made the biggest jump of any album on my list, on my rankings, and it's I've always enjoyed it. I've always liked it. I love it now. I just can't get enough of Back to the Egg. I
All
cannot get
right.
enough of Back to the Egg. I mean, right now for me, this is my favorite Wings record. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect, but I just basically almost love everything about this record. The Getting Closer, Spin It On. I love everything. All the rockers. And I really appreciate now. Winter Rose, Love Awake.
Oh,
Yeah. Baby's Request. I think is what a way to close an album, Baby's Request. So glad to see you. I love to you. I mean, I do like Again and Again and Again, where as you don't. Um, but for me, this is just a fantastic record that I cannot wait for the archive release for, and really can't wait to see what they do and get everybody's reevaluation of this record, and I'm sure people are gonna the ones that don't never really cared for it, I'm sure they're going to change their minds.
and didn't we hear a little? Somebody heard that it was confirmed that it is coming out
It
at the end
was
of the year.
confirmed. Yeah, it's just not
Public.
the release date the release date hasn't been confirmed yet. But Steve and LJ, they're joining the band. I think really gave them a little boost of energy, just because of they were able to perform these great tracks. They
Yeah.
were able to do the past Wings songs, and they did them well. So this one really has risen in stature for me. And again, I can't wait to see what they do with an archive. But man, Back to the Egg is just
Phenomenal, phenomenal,
fan.
phenomenal play.
It
It's
is.
it's risen.
Yeah.
It's risen in both our lists. I think obviously
Right.
it's safe to say over the
Right.
last few years, and
Right.
that's great.
Yep. All
Two
right.
left,
Top two.
top
Top
two.
two.
Okay, no
And this is I can't
surprise.
believe how long this has been taking us, but
This is, I think, our longest episode we've ever done, brother.
right. Yeah, I
So
hear
thank
you.
you.
But top two. Yeah.
Yeah. Number 2. Okay, no surprise to anybody. Okay, I've spoken fondly about it.
Right.
London Town.
Right.
Um, listen, I like the low keyness of the album, and I'll get to it really quick. We've spoken about it on our shows, so I don't have to talk too much about it. I absolutely love the opening track. To me, London Town is McCartney at his melodic best, putting a melody together, talking about ordinary people, something that John Lennon
Right.
couldn't do, but Paul could just do it. Paul could come up with a great melody and run with it. And he does that with London Town, the title track, with a little luck. I mean, opening up side 2. I've gotten to like Morse Moose when I was younger. I didn't really like, but I really
Mhm.
love Morse Moose and the Grey Goose now. Again, it's that kitchen sink mentality again. Let's just go crazy and have
Yes.
have
Yep.
something with everything in it. With Morse code, which I love. Maybe not as keen on Famous Groupies, but Name and Address. But Cafe in the Left Bank. I'm Carrying Backwards Traveler, which is why I came up with that show, because that's what I want it to be. But
Right.
I love London. I love the aesthetic. I love the mood of the record. After such frenetic years of activity and conquering the world and conquering stadiums and kicking ass and doing those live shows and being
Right.
like a huge big rock arena band, he scaled it back, and let's just chill out for a while. And that's
Mm.
what I love about the album. I absolutely adore it. Girlfriend, I love Children. Deliver Your Children, I think, is one of the best of all time. We've talked about it with
Yeah.
Owen Ling. When we talked about it. Is the album better with Mull of Kintyre and or Girls School? Sure, it is. It would be probably
Yeah.
even higher. But
Mm.
London Town, to me, again, the artwork. To me, at this stage, the artwork is almost as important as the music. It sets the
Mhm.
theme for the album. Venus and Mars and Ran. I
Right.
love the artwork with these albums too. That, to me, and looking at a 12-inch vinyl, it's you study it and you look at it and you're like, God, they just look so cool.
Mm.
They're there, the Tower of London behind, the London Bridge behind them, and the jackets and the black and white photo.
Right.
I love it. I absolutely love everything about the packaging and the music. And the music is,
Mhm.
a bonus. But yeah, I've gushed about London Town enough in the past on this show. So yeah, no surprise it's two.
Mm. Okay. Yeah, two for me. Probably. I think this is probably definitely the best album in the second half of his career. Chaos and Creation. We
Ah,
talked about him getting pushed, getting challenged, not settling.
yep.
And Nigel, was able
Pushed him.
to push him, and it was for the best. I mean, I'm sure it might have made it for a good record. But with that little nudge, and that saying, hey, look, it's just not good enough. And he was able to make a great record. I mean, lyrically, it's fantastic. I mean, looking through the backyard of my life,
Oh,
just that
there's the
title.
theme, Tom. There's
Yeah,
the theme.
right. Right. And it goes so well with the cover of that photo from his brother.
Yep.
It just works perfectly. I love the opening track, Fine Line. How Kind of You is great. Jenny Wren, fantastic. Friends to Go, Too Much Rain. Riding the Vanity Fair, I think again is right up there with Dominoes for challenging for the best song he's done on this, since the 2000s. This never happened before. Promise to You, Girl. I mean, I think this is just a top-notch record. It's an almost DIY, do-it-yourself record. He has a few outside musicians that come on and help him for this record, but this could have been McCartney 3 before McCartney 3,
It could have been.
in a way.
It
You
really
know,
could have been. Yep.
but yeah, but this album is just so powerful. I think it's Lennon-esque. I mean, a lot of people would say this is probably a Plastic Ono band. I mean,
His
if there was
version of that.
his
Yeah.
version of a Plastic Ono band where it's raw, it's
Yep.
him being personal. I mean, especially with writing the Vanity Fair. How Kind of You as well. So this is, in Friends to Go, where he has the George moment. So a lot of personal moments for him on this record, and man, I,
Reflective.
I know
Yeah.
reflective, good word, yeah, and this might turn people off, but I mean, if you don't like this record, I don't get you, I really don't. This is just top notch McCartney writing. This is another instance where I like the writing more than I like the music.
The music. The writing. The
Yeah,
writing. The writing's on point.
it's on point and it's strong, and yeah, I hope people would have that in their top 10 or top 5,
They
or
need to listen to
consider
it.
it.
And again, I think it's
Yeah,
the album we wanted Driving Rain to be, but wasn't. But we
right.
got but we
Yeah,
got it eventually. We did.
yeah,
So
yeah.
uh,
So okay.
let's bring it on home, brother. No
Yeah,
surprise left. We've got number
yes,
one left, and if you've been
right,
following along, y'all know that Red Rose Speedway is my number one. And
right.
this is another edition here that's out there for a while. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, listen, it's my personal choice. It's not a critic's choice. It's my personal choice. It's the album I really first connected with and was like, oh, there's actually somebody else behind the hits of the Wings hits that were
Right.
obvious. That's what drew me to the album when I first listened to it as a young teenager. I knew the hits, obviously the Wings hits that were a staple. This was okay. Let me listen to a record from start to finish and see if I really like it. And my uncle had it, my father had it, and I'm like, this is good stuff. What
Right.
is like what is the hate with this record? I don't get it. Um, Killer Side One. I happen to think it's a Killer Side Two as well.
Right. Oh yeah.
The only track I'm not that keen on is the loop, the instrumental, but even that's okay. Um, when the Night too is awesome. I mean, he even did that live. Go check out the Wings bootlegs from the
Right.
'73 tour. When the Night, a live version of that kills. That he did
Mm,
that live. I wish he did more tracks from this album live on
right.
that '72, '73 tour that were this material was being kicked around. And a lot of this material goes back to the Ram era. It really does.
Hmm.
Get on the Right Thing goes back to Ram. Dragonfly goes back to Ram. Big Barn Bed does too.
Right.
My Love was done in '72. So it was their first commercial success with the hit of My Love on there as well. As an album, maybe it didn't have the staying power, but this was Paul getting his confidence back. And I'm a sucker for it. I'm a sucker for the medley. You all have been following Two Legs since I've been a part of it. No, I love that. I love the four songs. I love how the theme comes back at the end with you hear Power Cut and you hear Hold Me Tight, Lazy Dynamite, and Hands of Love. You hear those three
Right.
things repeated at the end of the medley with Power Cut for 11 minutes. I absolutely adore the medley. I always have since I heard this in the early 90s, and I always will. Big Barn Bed is a great opener. My Love, of course, is the huge hit, which is still, people are like, oh, My Love. But My Love is a great song on its own. But in the context of the album, Get on the Right Thing, awesome rocker. One More Kiss. I don't get tired. I've never gotten tired of these songs in close to 30 years. If I didn't get tired then, I'm not going to get tired now. Again, the bonus tracks, we don't count those, but closing the album with a medley, I think was pretty brave to do. I hate the fact that he doesn't really know it or embrace it, but I know it has its fans, and I'm glad that that those that share that opinion with me. And then if you don't, that's fine too. But to me, again, the artwork, for the gatefold. If you're looking at the album, the photos you talked about when you ranked the album, the packaging, lyrics for the first time on a McCartney album were also included with Red Rose Speedway. It was the first time you had lyrics as well. So, and again, the famous artist Eduardo Palazzi from Liverpool did all the artwork. And again, when we got the deluxe archive edition in 2018, it was so well done. You had the reconstructed double LP, which I would have been fine with, but I'm fine with it being a single too. I think the album is strong on its own. The American public loved this album, and there's a reason it went to number one. Yeah, My Love helped it, but the other songs are damn good too. And I stick by my number one ranking of Red Rose Speedway 30 years ago and today. It has not changed, and it will not change. So, power to the people, brother, as JL said, and that's it, man. Red Rose Speedway is Andy Nichols' number one album from least favorite to most favorite, but you all knew that anyway. So take it away, brother. Take us home.
I love the fact that if you were seeing Wings live in '72 for those two tours, I'm sorry, no, the second '72, and then I think the
73.
Yeah. Even that first 72, I mean, because he still played a couple songs that would end up being on, or the supposed, the two album set. You were hearing all these songs that you wouldn't hear for another year, especially if you saw that second Wings tour. They were doing My Love, right? They're doing, Win the Night. You're doing,
1882 and Wildlife. Yeah.
Well, you would have known Wildlife, but you didn't know, all these tracks that were going to be on a double album, but not. So
I would only smile.
Best Friend, I Would Only Smile. Yeah, exactly. So really cool that you got to hear all those songs, back in that time.
But then they never make it onto the album.
But they never made it on the album. I really wish that we were still, artists were able to do that, but whatever. Okay, so yeah, before you mentioned it, before it was cool to love this album, I loved this album. This has always been my favorite McCartney record, from the time that I got it, from the time I listened to it, and by the time I listened to all the other McCartney records coming since and going. This Ram has always been my favorite, and I love the fact that we kid Linda from time to time about not being the greatest singer in the world, but what she adds to this album, I think, is priceless. You mentioned Denny and Hugh and Spinoza. I mean, the musicianship on this record is I think top notch. Maybe not all the song, the writing is perfect, but the musicianship on this record is above and beyond fantastic. I love the epic that is Backseat of My Car. I think it's just one of his just greatest songs.
Mexico City.
Right. I'm really appreciating Long Hair Lady more. At 6:05, it could be cut, obviously. But
Kind of like this episode,
guitar,
which we're not going to
right?
cut.
Yeah, I know exactly. The guitar playing. When he goes, my long haired lady, and you hear doing doing doing. The guitar playing, and that is fantastic, very jazzy. And then Linda doing all love is long.
Yep.
I
Kind of
think
get that
that.
little you get the Hey Jude thing going
Yeah,
on.
the little Hey Jude thing going on. Yeah, right. So, Uncle Albert and Admiral Halsey. I mean, even though it's not my favorite McCartney track, I mean, it's still a wow factor on this album. It's still like you were not expecting this. I mean, you wanted this, right? You talked about how you wanted certain McCartney to be a certain way on that first McCartney record, right? You finally
Right.
get a little bit of
You get
that,
a little bit
with
of that on
here.
the second
You
one,
get it
yeah,
here,
but
right?
people still
Yeah.
shit on it.
Right. Yeah, true. Too many people, the little bit, people, too many people preaching practices. Okay. Yeah, a little dig on John. Sure. Did he think that he was going to be somebody that was going to be doing it, himself?
20 years later, no.
20 years later, maybe not. But dear boy, like you said, fantastic. The fact that he's singing about, Linda's ex, and hey, this
Yep.
is you're
But
missing
again,
out, buddy.
John was so
Yeah,
paranoid that he thought it was
right.
all about him.
Oh, about him. Yeah, Monkberry Moon Delight. The craziness that is Monkberry Moon Delight is just,
So I
off the
stood in the
chart.
attic with a
Yeah.
piano up my nose.
Right, right. Ramon too, which is a staple in his soundcheck
In the sound
set
checks.
list. Fantastic song. I mean, every song on here. I mean, even Eat at Home, which was probably my least favorite track on here because it just sounds completely different than anything else for me. But it's again, it's a kick ass. It's a rocker. It's a great rocker on
You know
here.
what? And we just talked about this on a show with Dylan Steve. You know why I love Eat at Home?
Right.
The middle eight. The
The
middle
middle
eight.
eight.
Bring the love they
Right.
feel to me, to the love of the night, and
Right.
in the morning you bring
Exactly.
to me.
Right.
That's a killer middle eight.
Right. Would this album have been, a little bit more highly regarded if Another Day was on it? Maybe.
Sure.
But
Woman All Why?
maybe, yeah. As we know, we had Denny Sywell and Fernando Perdomo on a couple weeks ago talking about their live show that they're going to do of Ram at the Troubadour in July. So if you're in the California area, or if you're close to the Troubadour, or if you're someone that just loves the album Ram and want to hear it in its entirety, go to troubadour.com.
First time ever. The Ram. Well, actually, not the first time ever. First time played by musicians who actually played. Well, one musician played on the original record. There's a couple of Ram. There's been a couple of Ram tributes out there, but this has Denny Sywell, which
his stamp of approval on there, and I'm actually really considering going to this show. I mean, tickets are only $20. Tickets are only $20.
$20.
$20.
You would just have to fly there.
I might drive.
Would you drive?
We'll see. Yeah, I would drive. I just try to find a cheap hotel. I'm really considering going. But yeah, Ram for me is top-notch McCartney in the writing and in musical area. I mean, it's just it's fantastic.
That's a list, man. That's gonna 3 hours of our episode here, and that's gonna wrap us up. And that is our least of 26 albums, least favorite to most favorite that we've been kicking on for a while. And folks that hung in there today, thank you for watching. It's been the longest episode that Tom and I have ever done. So thank you. But we were passionate about these records and we wanted to rank them and do them justice. So thank you everybody for kicking in there. I've got my other channel, Andy's Other Leg, Andy's Music Vault on my channel. And I just did a video talking about the Who concert that I went to see. And I also did a video recently on the Elton John's brand new box set of the 50th anniversary edition of Madman Across the Water, which I just posted as well. That's on there. That's the Other Leg, Andy's Music Vault on YouTube. You can check that out as well. And Tom, what do you have going on with Talk More Talk?
Well, Talk More Talk is still going. By the time this is posted, we'll also have a little McCartney tribute on the Talk More Talk YouTube channel and on all the audio formats as well. So we're gonna get together and do like a little, it won't be 3 hours long, but it will, maybe a half hour, little, talking McCartney. So look for that on the Talk More Talk YouTube channel. And yeah, brother, obviously this being the 18th that this day is posted, it was Record Store Day as well. So maybe we'll also be live at some point on the during the day, and I will show that Women and Wives Record Store Day album. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Two Legs Podcast. You can email us at twolegspodcast@gmail.com. And on the YouTube channel, Two Legs, a Paul McCartney podcast. Thank you, everybody, for subscribing. If you've ever thought about subscribing, please check us up. Please check out the channel and subscribe. And yeah, and if you feel like we've earned a little donation, please feel free to hit that little dollar sign and give us a buck or two if you want. We'd really appreciate it. So again, Andy, go ahead and take us home,
Yep.
buddy.
Thank you, Tom. Episode 170. We have one more coming for you for the end of the month. Before we say put the end and the wrap on June, then we'll be into July, and that will be it. So for Tom, I'm Andy. Everybody, thanks for tuning in, and like our man says, we'll see you next time.
Listening to Two Legs, a Paul McCartney podcast, hosted by Tom Hunyadi and Andy Nichols, with musical contributions by Dylan